She's a tough lady. She'll be back. Steve is going to be late. He called Kathy Bordeaux and said that he was running a little late. And I don't think we have any other business until before this board except going into non-public. Am I correct? Okay, can I have a motion to go into...
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we do? Okay.
We were going to talk about that gentleman that the superintendent wanted us to talk.
Oh, yes, that's right, yeah. I didn't know. I don't know what I did. Here.
Warrant, was it?
You got that email from Jay?
Yes, I did.
Asking if we'd like to talk to that gentleman and have him come to our board meeting. He's somebody that Jay's been working on with superintendent and administrative evaluations, and that might be a good idea for the three chairs to talk to him. And then we could have him come to that meeting on the 30th, the joint board meeting.
For what purpose?
Well, that was my question.
Yeah, kind of what
That
I
was my
thinking.
question. If we're going to, I don't see why the three of us should meet with him if he's coming to the board to discuss this.
I
He's
don't
going to tell the
understand.
board the same thing he's going to tell us,
Right.
so why listen to it twice?
I don't understand. Well, for what purpose is he coming to see the board?
I guess to explain the new evaluation
To promote his
tool.
evaluation.
Well,
Who is this person?
I don't
his name
know.
is
He is
Dr.
from Pittsfield. He developed a superintendent evaluation and a principal evaluation. This was presented, the only reason I know about it is because I'm on the professional growth committee, and Jay brought it to the committee as part of, we're in that subcommittee, you know, the administrative. And that's what he presented, remember at the meeting?
I wouldn't call that a presentation.
Well, that's what he had in hand.
Yes.
But
The person who designed that is the person she's speaking of.
I'll read you the email. I've been working with Dr. Bill Bryan on educational leadership and evaluation. He's available for us to the SIG grant until August. Bill's model for developing administrator job descriptions and evaluations could be of great assistance to you in superintendent hiring. I suggest the three of you meet with Bill on the morning of the 30th to see his work. Bill could attend a joint board meeting that night if you wanted him to. Along with a chance to get his input on hiring, I would like the board or the subcommittee thereof to give its tacit approval to an approach to administrator evaluations that would be worlds of an improvement over the current practice. So that pretty much covers. Go ahead, Ian.
We really can't talk about the hiring thing because we haven't just had our superintendent discussion this
Right,
evening
I'm
yet.
just reading the email.
Right. And the other part of it, I believe Dr. Byron works for the Center of Secondary Reform, and he has done a lot of work with the Pittsfield School District. We've done a lot of work with that organization through the SIG grant, but we've had two other people, Nelson Bodine and another woman, working with us. And Jay did briefly present a little material at the last Professional Growth Committee, but he collected it all and no one really had a chance to look at it. But I don't know why it's coming to the board before it goes through that process of that committee, because it needs to be approved by the committee
Correct.
before it comes to the board.
And the committee had also designed a copy of it.
Right.
So,
So I just think we're jumping the gun a little bit
So
there.
you guys are going to meet, I'm not going to meet and discuss this before we have our meeting on the 30th, I take it.
The
It's not
Professional
something we're
Growth
gonna-
Committee?
right.
No.
Okay.
Well, I guess I have a concern that I can see the Professional Growth Committee maybe working on the administrative evaluations, but I have a problem with the Professional Development Committee coming up with a superintendent evaluation. I think that's this board's job to do, not a committee made up of teachers and staff to do.
Well, the professional growth, there's no Professional Development Committee anymore. It's all a Professional Growth Committee. And, you know, at the beginning of the year, we all met and we all split into subcommittees. You know, I'm on the para one, Viv's on
I'm on
the
administrative.
administrative one, and I believe there's other administrators on that.
Jerry Gregoire is on one of them.
Right, Tim
Jay is
Hodgson.
on ours. Tim, Jocelyn.
Right, Jocelyn,
Emily,
they're
yeah.
administrators. And there's two other subcommittees, I don't even know. But, so we're all working in our subgroups, and then when we're done working in our subgroups, we bring our plans back to the whole committee, and then the whole committee reviews them. And this is what we did with the teachers' evaluations last year. You know, it was a big collaborative effort on everybody's part. And that's where we are.
And then the professional growth makes the recommendation at that point.
Right.
I guess I'm concerned about how do anybody on this committee know what this board's thoughts are as to how and what we should be evaluating our superintendent on.
But by the same token, I mean, again, you're just going to give they're not evaluating, but they'll have some sort of template. And you can you can tweak it a little bit, but if they can come up with a good template, whether you're evaluating vice principal, principal, superintendent, sped coordinator, it's going to be fairly close to the same thing. If that template, so the professional growth comes up with a good template, this board can then tweak it to personalize it just for the superintendent. So yeah, why meet with this person until you guys have reviewed it?
Right, exactly.
And at least come up with some sort of template.
So maybe it's that professional development committee that needs to meet with this Bill
Exactly.
Burns.
Right.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be this board yet.
Exactly.
All right, fine.
Because I think I know he's done a lot of work in Pittsfield,
Yes.
and, and I think it's worth looking at, but it just, I don't know why Jay's jumping the gun right here real quick.
Well, I told him that I would confer with the two board chairs, and then we decided that bring it to the full board, seeing we were meeting, and I will get back to him and say that we think we're putting the cart before the horse. That,
Right.
we'd like to see his information, but in a timely fashion. It's the right time. Doug?
I have some, we got all these subcommittees out there. Under 91A, I would like a complete list of these committees, and I want to know who the members are on them, sitting on them at this time, in the 91A.
I'm the secretary for the Professional Growth Committee. Be more than happy to give you a copy of all the subcommittees and the minutes if you'd like.
And I'd like to make that request to Milton's board also, and any boards that we
It's the
have.
same committee, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
we're
any
on this-
committee or subcommittee we got out there. I want to know who's on them, because I have the same feeling you do. I want to know who's making these decisions on the side and bringing them before me on everything.
Every committee has to keep minutes now,
Yes.
and they'd be available at the SAU.
Well, I
So-
want
Your email address, and I'll make
So
sure
you
you
can look
get
at
all
the
the
minutes
information.
and-
I'd like a
Yeah,
copy
I'll
of
be
that.
more than happy to send you the minutes and the list of all the subcommittees and who's on them.
Yeah, I don't have as much of a problem with the administrative or the teachers or the paras evaluations, but when it comes to the superintendent one, I just wonder.
I want them all in the 91A. That goes for us too, Ann, please.
You're not gonna make me print them all, are you?
No.
I can email them to you.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
I'm thinking all the ink.
Right now.
I love electronics.
I understand the 91A, but nobody's going to have any problem giving it
No.
to you,
Well, I'm
Doug, so.
just, okay,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, but
Right, you'll get them.
I know that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Anything else to come before this board? Can I have a motion to go into non-public under, let's see, RSA 91A 3(2)B, hiring of a public employee.
Moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Walsh, aye.
Colbath, aye.
Mason,
Ms. Cito, aye.
Okay.
Okay, we've got to do a non-public, Ed?
we'll stand to salute the flag. I
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I understand Steve called the SAU and said he was going to be late, or?
Yeah, he said he'd be a little late.
Okay. So we'll just go ahead and he can join us in progress. Is there a motion for the manifest?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I have 3 items I need to add to the agenda. We need to assign, and that's if Steve comes, I hope he does, we need to assign our warrant articles, who's going to speak to what
Mm-hmm.
at deliberative session. Jerry wanted to talk to us about some computers for the library. And I have an official complaint. So I need to add those 3 things to the agenda if nobody has any objections.
Those sound like they're all under school board business. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, minutes
Warren.
of the last meeting, 1/7/13. Anything on page 1? Page 2. I have one under F. It probably should say Mrs. Nason asked if there were any. So if instead of is, were instead of was, and any instead of and. Are you gonna correct those? Because I think you wrote those.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I have if instead of is, and were instead of was,
And any instead of
and
and.
any.
Anything on page 3? Seems funny without Liz here.
I know.
Page 4.
I hope we're not letting her down.
I did spell check.
Make a motion to accept these minutes.
Under warrant articles to see if the Wakefield School District will vote instead of is.
Yep. Page 4.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The second was Vivian?
Yeah.
Old business?
I have 2 more sets of minutes that just came into my packet today. I assume you don't want to do them tonight, because I just got them. I can hand them out. Or you can read them tonight if you want to. One is the draft minutes from our January 11th meeting that was right before the budget committee, and then this one is the public hearing on the school budget.
Well, the public hearing on the school budget is up to the budget
Budget
committee
committee,
to
that is.
approve. It's their meeting. But I will take the ones for, 'cause I think these are fairly short. These were all
Yeah,
emailed to us.
they are.
I'd still like a hard copy of the budget committee meeting, though.
Yeah.
It's not ours.
There you go.
If you just take a second, we can read these. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, the draft public minutes of 1/11/13.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business, Apple computer training. Has there been any more thought, Mary, as to when that was going to be done? It's a 2-day consecutive day training.
I think Jay was in touch with Apple, no?
Yeah, they scheduled to come in with me, and then they changed it because of a snow. It was that snow day we had. Was it just earlier this week? Yeah, so that's being rescheduled.
Wednesday.
They've been good about trying to get together. It took a while, but once we got the request back to them and told them about it, they've been assertive. We just got it scheduled and then it didn't work out, so it's being rescheduled.
Well, I was going to ask, the last day of school, that's a half day of school, right?
Mhm.
Do the teachers have a day after that they
Yes.
come back to?
Yes, yes.
So why couldn't it be done the half day of the last day of school and the day after that they're supposed to come in?
We certainly could.
Why couldn't you do
Or
those
we-
as 2 consecutive days?
Do you normally have time for the teachers to clean up their rooms? Is that part of their end of the year, or do they expect to have that done by year's end? I'm not sure what your expectation is.
My
has been.
expectation is that they don't clean their rooms up until the students leave, but that's not what happens.
I'm just saying that, what happened. I mean, I know that at the end of the year, there's some tidying up no matter what they do.
Right.
Excuse me, prior to the end of the year, but there's always more to do.
Well, they have to sign, you have to sign them out.
Correct, and that's why I'm asking, is there, given that that's an expectation, do we
Usually
give them
get a
that
half a day.
time? So, that would probably cut into that. We could do the training, the 2 days, for 2 days after that first day that we had. We could certainly look at the other options they have that, the day that we don't normally have planned is another professional development day, but there may be a cost associated with that.
One of the issues, truly, Judy, is the fact that we don't have a lot of PD days built into the calendar. And that's one of the things that I hope that the board looks at when we look at the schedule next year, is to build a few more either half days or professional development days in the calendar, so that we do have time to do things like this Apple training.
I believe we do the calendar in January too, so it's time to do the calendar.
Yeah, it is. I was just gonna
Yeah.
say that.
Yep.
It's imminent.
So table this until that.
And the calendars, typically, they get, the start of the calendar development is at the high schools that have the Voc centers.
Mhm.
And they all sort of talk and coordinate,
Right.
and then it passes out. And I've heard discussions between superintendents, so I think they're pretty well set. One of them was off from the others, and we all went back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Is
So-
it necessary for us to coordinate our schedule to accommodate Spalding and their Voc schedule?
It's not necessary, but it's certainly easier on families.
It's easier on buses,
We
too.
do it, yeah.
I'm just thinking, if we decide to have more professional development days, that doesn't impact Spalding
No,
No.
in any way.
no.
That's where my concern is, looking at the elimination of half-days.
We try to make sure that vacation days are the same.
Absolutely, yeah,
And if we
coordinating
can
that.
coordinate PD days, we do that too.
Yeah.
But
I-
we can add any extra that we want to add.
I'll be honest, I know we're a little off topic here, but I certainly, there's a place for half-days, but for quality professional development, I don't think that's the place for quality professional development. It's an early release. I don't think people in the mindset at that point to really delve into professional development. I think the more eliminating those who have more
Full day.
of the full day.
Evenings.
Yeah.
And we allowed for that in
We
the
allowed
contract.
in the
We made
contract.
a
Yeah, I
change that they
just-
could combine half
Right.
days to make whole days.
I just really
So
wouldn't
we
go
thought it might be a good idea to have full
That
days,
is.
and they did
quality
too.
professional
That is.
development, I
They
mean,
did too.
you can get a
That is
2.5
really
hour
true.
training in, but it's just people just settling in, they're getting their lunches or whatever, and it just,
We
certainly a
also
discussion to have.
talked about them having the half day, the kids coming in at noontime rather than coming in the morning and having their half day in the morning, so that's another thing that you might think about.
That may be a hardship on families. You have to remember that when you have half-days, parents will sometimes be able to take the kids to school in the morning, and they can arrange for someone to pick them up, or a bus could take them to a daycare or a different drop-off. Now, when they're at a daycare, sometimes it's more difficult if they're at different places to have to pick them up, bring them to school. It's a shorter period to arrange for care. I think it would be a hardship on families. I
Well,
really do.
They get the schedule a year ahead of time, you're getting your schedule in September for the whole year to make your arrangements.
That's true.
Yeah.
6,500 more probably.
Yeah, but that's something that
So
we do.
it would be out of the box, and that probably would throw people off a little bit, but if we did it on a regular basis, I think
Yeah.
people get used to that, if that's what we were doing.
Like the whole
I
day's
I like the whole day.
I do too.
Personally,
Whole
I
day,
think
really.
it gives us, if you have that full, training for half a day, and then you get a chance to kind of practice what we're doing, say it's an Apple thing, where you get a chance to kind of put it into play, that certainly is very helpful.
Yeah, and the other thing about doing an Apple training at the end of the year, when are they
That's
going to
fall.
open their computers again?
Mhm.
Possibly not until the fall. So,
Well, I guess my concern is we'll already have had the new computers for a year and no one's
No
had
one's
any
had
training
training
on
on
it.
it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the ways to possibly even take a look at that is perhaps have half the staff on one day and the other half the staff on the other day, so that it's a full training for each part of the staff, but only half of them.
But are you talking about bringing in subs for the other, on a regular day, or?
Yeah, half
Yeah.
of them, something
Yeah,
like
but if we're
that.
supposed to get 2 days of training, that 2 days of training should be for the whole staff for 2 days, not having to split it up because of our schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be getting 2 full days of training for all staff.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's
think
what we
it's-
paid for,
yeah.
that's what we
Well, I
need to
understand what you're
get.
saying, Jay, about it's a full, we had a full year without any training.
Right.
But I think our quality would be if we waited till the end of the year and did those 2 days back to back. If we were to look at what an option might be for the day after the last day for teachers, whatever that might be, and finding a way of funding that, if teachers are gonna be here, or if we made it mandatory, or what we ended up doing. Actually make it mandatory, but really offering them the opportunity. The expectation would be, here's your opportunity to take this, and if you don't take it, you're still accountable for knowing the information.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
And we're looking at trying to put in some very high quality professional development over the summer, so.
And tech inventory?
Right now, Back Bay is working on doing it electronically for our computers, iPads, electronic devices. What I have looked at is asset tags, which looks something like this. Barcodes that could be read off our current barcode reader that we have. Doing it for all of our materials that are high-priced electronic materials that we can't track electronically through with the computers and the iPads. We can track them just by software, and we know where they
Is this the
are.
same one you were talking about
Yes.
before?
Yeah.
And we could use that not only for the electronics, we can use it for other items as well?
You can use it for everything.
Okay.
A lot of schools will use it for anything that's purchased through title funds, and they track those title materials, and they know where they are, whether it's chairs and desks and
Right.
screens or whatever it might be.
And we still have the capability to have the portable scanner?
Correct.
Wonderful.
So we'll probably run about 500 of these for right now, just to track our electronics and then decide if that's the way we want to go.
And Warren is here, do you want to add anything on that?
No, I mean, that seems a reasonable approach, so.
So we're gonna have both the computer-based inventory that you're generating and the tag inventory? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, well, actually, will be like 3 inventories, because we've already inventoried for, the state wanted us to inventory machines for, their, like, tech assessment requirement. So all the student machines and the iPads are already in a database, so.
Good.
That's something we had to do, because we just had to do it, and then we're working on another piece of software that will give us a more detailed overview, just more useful for the, from the IT management side and for administrators. And then we're gonna do a visual, like, assessment of the teacher computers, like, which will be comprised of a visual, like, inspection of the machine, and then talking to the teachers to find out what their problem is with the machine, so that it'll be a very comprehensive series of audits on the machines.
The first one that Warren mentioned was the tech readiness tool that the state developed that was not mandatory, but it was close to mandatory given how much they pushed us. So the rationale being the state wanted to know exactly what types of technology were in the schools, because when we go away from NECAP to the next, to Smarter Balanced, that's going to be an electronically based test. And they wanted to find out whether or not there are significant gaps in capacity to use that test. So that's what that was for.
Appliances in the classroom?
Done, except for one in the Title I room. And I mentioned that, I think, to you, Judy, that we keep one in the Title I room, And I can certainly take it out. There's a reason it's in there, is because we have after-school activities and they give the kids snack when we have the tutors come in. I can certainly take it out, but we wouldn't have cold snacks, the juices and things like that in the room, in the Title I room. I think it's probably a reasonable thing to keep it in there as, exception.
But they're all out of everybody else's room?
I think the one is still in the computer lab, but it's unplugged and just hasn't been taken out yet.
So Title I has activities
Yeah,
after
through
school?
supplemental educational services, we have to offer tutoring, and so you have different vendors that might come in.
And
do
how
it.
late is that?
And it goes to 4:15 because then we have the late bus, and then the last one leaves.
So other teachers doing tutorings don't, every teacher has to do a tutor
Right.
once a
But they have other people coming in, outside vendors, different tutors that come in, the contracts and companies we have, the Club Z or one of those types of outside vendors.
And they can't use the refrigerator.
It wouldn't be appropriate for us to keep student food in the teachers' cafeteria,
I just,
in the cafeteria.
The only concern
If it's
I
good
have
for
is,
one, it should be good for all.
that's
my
what I
problem.
see
Yeah.
happening, and I
Yeah.
think that we do have an in-school, we have an after-school program. We have several teachers here who also have students, not only tutoring, but in different programs that I'm sure they'd like to have their refrigerator and have snacks. I'm just concerned that if we're doing for one, we're pulling them away from the rest of the staff, and I think it sends a bad message.
Well, I have to also consider that fare isn't always equal. There is a reason that there's a reason for that, and I feel like I can make an argument to my staff and say there's a reason we're keeping that one in there, and I would hope a reasonable person would look at that and say, yeah, that is an exception. This isn't for the teachers. This should be for the student snacks.
Okay.
That's it. It's entirely up to you. This is just and I left it in there until I could talk with you.
Do you see a problem with that, Jerry?
With having one in the Title I room?
No, I mean just in general.
Well, when I explained to the staff about allowing them to put them back in, which is what I explained to you a few weeks ago, my thought was to try to increase collegiality and camaraderie and allowing them one in every grade level, so they would have to work together to keep the food. If they needed something in the refrigerator, it would be one for every grade level, and they would kind of have them, force them to having lunch together, at least having to talk at some point if they weren't in that relationship already. That was my plan.
And the reason it was done in the first place is because we were trying to lower electricity rates. And believe it or not, those little refrigerators and microwaves
Yep.
really sucking up the electricity.
Well,
They
not
do.
only that, they
The
can be a
crock pots.
fire hazard. They can be, the crock pots, I believe some kids were burnt on. You've got the
Yeah, coffee
electricity
pots.
issue. My thought is that not having them in little sections of the building allows us to form cliques again.
Yeah.
And having to go to the teacher's lounge is more of a group type thing.
And I think that's been Viv's goal in trying to, do more with the staff lounges to make it
Right.
more appealing to people to go and have lunch. And when we did put the refrigerators back in, my, statement to the teachers was nothing to heat generate, so we couldn't have a hot plate. We weren't going to have a toaster oven or a crock pot or something like that. It was really just a refrigerator for people to keep their lunch and not for
It's
them to create.
amazing how much they add up.
I understand that, but again, the goal was to allow for more camaraderie and establish more collegiality with the peers.
I think I'm just looking at someone like, Mrs. Levitt, who runs the after-school program and has kindergarten class. And I'm sure a refrigerator in her classroom would definitely be easier for her. And what does she do for a whole group of 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds? And if she's doing it, then why can't they do it? And I just, to look at her and say, well, we're going to keep it in Title I, but you can't have it, even though you also have 6-year-olds after school
Right.
until 4:15 or 4:20. And those children have to bring their own, in their own little lunchbox, that extra snack for after-school program. I don't think it's fair to tell these children, you need to pack extra and you need to put something in your bag, but Title I doesn't have to.
We didn't make this a policy, did we, Judy? That's not one of the policies, is it?
It's not a policy.
I don't believe
it was
it's a policy.
decision of the
All right,
board,
I just
though.
wanted to make sure
It was a
wasn't policy.
decision of board, but we did discuss having to make it a policy if it was going to be an issue.
We could do that.
I just don't want the teachers feeling like they're being treated differently, you know, and I know it's not always fair. But my concern is I'm also looking at a classroom after school, and these teachers who are doing the after-school program are phenomenal. And they have 6-year-olds, and these kids are always hungry, you know, and I'm sure it would be great for them to have a little refrigerator. And I could make the same argument for them as I could for Title I. They have volunteers that come in and help them with the program. It's the same argument. So you know, I look at those teachers and say, well, sorry, but unless you're in Title I, you can't have it. I don't think that's fair.
I think the larger question from an administrative standpoint is what is the board's goal? And I've heard different goals articulated. Priscilla's goals was relating to energy efficiency.
Right.
Judy's goal was related to not having cliques form. You know, if
Well, it's a combination of
it's
things.
It is.
easier for us to think about when is there a reasonable exception, if ever. If our goal is to minimize electric use, then it doesn't matter where it is or what it's for. It draws extra electricity. And so you would look at it from that perspective. If we're looking at it from a perspective of collegiality, if we're looking at it from a perspective of fairness, then
Safety.
those are different, safety.
Safety.
Those are different, larger discussions. And I think if we could understand the larger goal of the board, then it would be easier for Jerry to say, here's why I think this is an exception to that goal. But right now, it seems like we have multiple goals, which creates a little bit of lack of clarity for us.
How about the school store? If there was one in the school store, that would be kind of centrally located. And anybody
Any
that,
after-school.
any after-school
group could
program
use it.
could be using that.
Maybe you can have a full size.
Yeah.
Because it'd probably be more reasonable to run than, more efficient than all these
Those little
small
ones,
ones.
we were amazed.
Well, there's only
when
one, I mean, it's not all those small ones any longer, it's that one small one. I just want to.
Right, no, I understand what you're
wouldn't have any
saying.
problem putting a small.
You only have the one,
Yep.
and I think, and this is only my personal view, and I'm looking at, we're trying to build a very positive atmosphere and, you know, get away from that idea that we're being unfair, that what's
Yep.
good for one is not good for, you want to make everything an even playing field.
So
And I
if
think
we
people
put-
feel like they're treated the same,
So if we put one in the school store, it's nobody's in particular, but.
but they all have access.
That would be a
Yeah,
place
you
we
know,
could put it.
That's my thought. You know, you've made a good point with the after-school.
Yeah.
No.
Not being with the
Well,
teachers,
so
but
on
why
and so
can't we
forth.
purchase an
But-
energy efficient, full size?
Certainly
You
can.
probably could
And
find
put it in
somebody
there,
to
we don't
donate
use
one.
that.
Looking for a refrigerator, who wants to donate?
And a
Is there any
rational-
reason why we can't use the refrigerator in the kitchen?
It's locked and closed.
It's-
You don't
we're
want-
not allowed
You
in
don't
the
want
kitchen.
stuff in and out.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the rationale that makes sense to me to having one in the school store would be, if students are bringing in food that's gonna last them up until 3 o'clock, it probably doesn't need to be refrigerated in order to be safe. If they're gonna be here another hour and a half after school, that food is coming from home, and they've got mayonnaise in a sandwich or something, you're starting to get to the point where refrigeration could be important. So if someone's gonna be here all day and they're gonna have an after-school activity, that we have some place where that food, not the students' lunch food,
Right.
so that because they're
Right.
after school, their lunch gets to be
It's
cold.
after
Right.
school.
But if they have after-school
into that.
food, it's needed for an after-school program, then we would provide some space for that. And it doesn't matter to me whether Jerry has it in the Title I room or the school store or out in the
School's still be
snowbank.
fine. I'm just, acknowledging that there is that need,
Yeah,
that they're
And
fulfilling.
that's,
in-
you've got a good point there.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So I mean,
Centrally
I
located.
certainly would,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
That would work. And then no one can say, well, they have it. in
Yeah.
their
Right,
didn't
house.
say
why do they
favorites.
have it? Why don't we have it? It's in the
Yeah,
school
okay.
store,
Thank-
everybody can access it.
Thank you.
Who's gonna
S-
clean it, could be another.
We
thing.
may have, I don't know what the power supply looks like in there, so that may be something we have to look at also.
Yeah, that I wouldn't know, but I think they've had things in there before. that-
We had coolers and we had crock pots and we had,
Yeah,
we
other
had,
things in
yeah.
there.
Okay, scoreboard, did we find out
Done.
if that's?
It is done.
Yay.
All set.
I did notice when I was reading the minutes, I said I'd update you on that EBCCR First Aid Procedure Policy that Viv brought up. Scott's talked to the nurses at both Milton and Wakefield, and that policy is out of date, and they've pulled it, and they're gonna be writing a new first aid
Yeah.
with the nurses' help.
They were cackling at some of the stuff that was in there.
You mean
This
you
doesn't
can't hold
even make exist
anyone by their
anymore.
ankles in order
And
to?
then shake them, yeah. Scott was telling us
They
about
were,
that.
it was pretty funny.
That's funny.
No, that's not a good
I
idea.
have correspondence, some things I just want to get rid of from my house that I shouldn't have. That is the last page of the purchase and sales agreement, the signature page.
Okay,
That needs to
excellent.
go with the contract.
Right?
This I had forgotten to give to Andrew. It's the Peter Cooper doc when he did the wetlands evaluation out back.
Oh, right, the final
That's
report. Okay.
that. So I want to make sure that I've given those
you.
back out. Correspondence. We actually have quite a bit of correspondence.
It's feast of famine.
That I already said was going on the agenda for later. I've got 2 letters regarding cafeteria. Do you want me to read these out loud, or?
Is it a non-public or is it public? Any names?
No, I don't think that there's anything that needs
Okay.
to be a non-public.
All right, go ahead and read it.
Oh, that one has a name, just have to,
There's a name in here?
yeah, until.
Oh, I just won't say the name. I am writing this letter as a concerned parent. My children have been eating lunch at Paul's school for many years. Till this year, my children have come home saying chicken undercooked and pizza dough isn't cooked. Expired raisin dates. I have gone into the school during lunchtime and seen so much food being thrown away, and there is hair in the food as well. I think there should be more choose for the kids. I'm reading what I'm seeing, so. For the kids that they can choose from, and a nacho stacker cheese isn't even melted stalled chips. To whom it may concern, I'm writing this letter in regards to the lunchroom. I can't help feeling that the outside company was a mistake. I've tried not to make a rash judgment, so I waited to hear what others and my children thought of the school lunches. I have to say I was under the impression that lunches would taste better and have more variety. I feel that a child should be treated as a paying customer, and if I wouldn't eat the lunch, then I wouldn't expect my children to. There are no soups, only tomato on occasion. The grilled cheese sandwiches are hard as a rock. The pizza is undercooked, and several have complained about hair in their food. There has been uncooked chicken, and the deli sandwiches are a piece of meat and a piece of cheese, no condiments. Dry on 2 slices of bread. That's not a deli sandwich to me. I would love my children to have hot lunch, but unfortunately we are now taking our lunch because I can't trust the sanitation or food prep and lack of appetizing food. I don't mean to be harsh, but I wanted to get my point across. I think we should go back to our own program where the school is in charge of the lunch program, where they can find new ways to make the program better. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter. I'm not signing my name because I don't want anything coming back on my children. Sorry, small town.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should be apologizing for sharing their perspective. I appreciate when we get communications from the community about any concerns that are happening in the school. So for whoever wrote that letter and anybody else out there, we appreciate hearing from you.
Do you want to pass these on to, who do I want to pass these on to?
Chris Farrell.
Chris Farrell?
Yeah, I'll take them. We'll take them back to you.
I did pick up a card to send to Liz. If anyone wants to sign that. I thought I had something No, it's under correspondence.
Well, there was the one that I gave you before the meeting. I
Yep,
don't know
that's
if you want- if you-
non-public.
Okay,
That's non-public.
okay.
So you're gonna pass those on to Chris, and he was supposed to be on the agenda for Wednesday night, but we canceled Wednesday night, and I didn't see the need of making him come out on Friday, so I asked Andrew to reschedule him for the next meeting, so I assume that he'll come prepared to address those complaints.
I would expect so, yeah.
Okay. I guess my other question about that I can ask under the Food Advisory Board. Okay, we'll move on to administration. Curriculum Coordinators Report. Did anybody have any questions on that? Any questions
Send it
on
that way.
special ed?
Send it that way.
Yeah. Did Jerry get to sign?
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on the special
Thank
ed report? Any questions on the principal's report? Moving on to administrative notes. Is there any questions for Jeff?
Excuse me.
I would like to add a couple things that have come up since I wrote the report, if that's
Yeah.
okay. There was a meeting representing all three of the schools in the SAU, taking a look at the websites and getting feedback from people. And Back Bay was participating in that meeting. In fact, you were a part of that meeting, weren't you, Warren? I wasn't there. But they had already received from me a list and extended that list, and then the next step is to prioritize the list, and then that work will get started. Do you want to add anything on that, or?
No, I mean, as long as, the process is, once people know what they want on the website, and then there's some decisions on how we want it organized, it's just,
And the school board's policy section now no longer has outdated policies on it. It is under construction, and then when it comes back up, it will be with accurate policies. So that has been taken care of. Another thing that
How long is that gonna take?
My understanding is that you don't have necessarily the person yet. We need to find out what the need is, and then Back Bay will identify a person. So it's not going to happen overnight, but it's not wildly difficult work. Once we have a plan, it shouldn't take long. I don't think is the priority setting meeting set yet? I don't
I've
recall
not
it.
heard, I know Scott was
He was the point person on it. I'll make a note to see if we can get that meeting next week, if that's something that you guys can
we
make
haven't heard
happen.
from
If not,
Scott.
then early the
This
the
will
week.
have a cost involved, so it's something.
Yeah, Pricilla
Well,
and
are
I
we
on
talking
that.
about setting up a whole new website, or are we just talking
Mhm.
about
Yep.
being able to manage the one we have?
No.
No, it needs to be redone. The way it was built in parts, and the parts don't all speak to one another, and it's not scalable to size. So we could do something with the same format, we could do something with the same look, but it's gonna be completely different underneath. The skeleton is gonna be completely different.
Well,
Is that
Warren,
Not
correct?
very workable, right,
Warren,
Warren?
when you spoke to us at that meeting, you said that it wouldn't be cost efficient to try to basically Band-Aid what we have because it was pretty much outdated. And it would probably be our best interest to just start fresh.
yes.
And we would have to hire someone to set up the web, right?
Do the
The
website.
original
Yes.
web page, and then you take it from there.
And the long-term benefits of doing that, all the websites, and if you look at some of the websites, as we were to compare them with other sites on the internet, they're old, they're outdated, they're difficult to work with. The whole process, some of the other school customers we're working with, the technologies are completely different, because where we want to drive to is so that you get several staff people in the buildings that are not, like, they don't have to be web developers, we don't need any special, expensive software that needs to be updated to, like, maintain the websites. Anyone's going to be able to edit the website. It's going to be much more sustainable for the district to do it that way.
Now, that's the SAU website.
Yes,
what
I don't know what how the coordination between the different schools is going to go. My impression, or are we just talking about the SAU website?
We're talking about all the websites, because none of them were functional when I got here. And the original discussion with Back Bay and Analysis was that all of them have the same problem. And my strong priority is that they're very closely linked, so that when we put something, when we change a personnel unit in Wakefield, then it should show up on the SAU, and they should be directly linked, and a person should be able to access the same information without us having to put it up twice on the district website and on the SAU website. So I want them to be completely
If they're
integrated.
bulletins, like, we can set it up so that if there's a district-wide bulletin that needs to go out, it'll just appear on all the websites automatically. It won't be a thing where you gotta call this person or, coordinate with this person and try to figure out, like, where's this website posted, and
And you were gonna have links on each one as well, to the other websites.
But I think the SAU, we decided to start with the SAU and then branch out to the
Right,
others.
right.
Yeah.
Well, we can use the SAU site, which is really quite simple. I mean, I just, the scope of the project, I think, is pretty, it's not a huge project to do it for a web developer, but with the SAU site, we can basically set the template for how, the other schools will be incorporated into it. So it makes sense to start there and then expand out.
The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that we have had a meeting, Mary and I were involved with it, relating to data. Schools have so much data. In our student information system, our personnel information, all the reports that we have to do, the school, all the school reports that have to go into the state, the discipline reports that have to go into the state. There's a ton of data that we have to manage, and those data systems frequently don't talk to one another, and there's a lot of redundance. There are a lot of times that someone calls the Paul School and says, I've had a change of my phone number, and when we call them the next week from the SAU, we look in our data and we have the old phone number because they didn't call us too. You really ought to have your data systems integrated and working efficiently. We've had significant problems this year with our Alert Now, because for some reason we go in and we pull a person out who no longer has a child in the district, and when the system resets, which it does every night, it pulls them back in because it thinks there's an error that a person's been taken out, and they get called again the next time and they're still unhappy, and we don't blame them for that. So what we've done is we had a meeting with West Ed, which is a firm out of the DC area that does a lot of work with schools, and Two Revolutions, which is working on reworking the state of New Hampshire's student data management system. And they are working with us, and we're using grant funds to have them integrate all of our data systems. And so they're starting to look at, there are some overarching technologies. For example, in my daily functions, along with email, I have approval of requests for time off. I have approval of requisitions. I have a list of usernames and passwords that takes 2 pages because of all the different things I have to log into at different times. There are overarching technologies that allow you to put in your username and password first thing in the morning, and you have access to all of those. They're all linked together, so you put in your username and password, and once your computer knows it's you, when you get a minute and you want to approve somebody's leave, you just click on it. You don't have to do another username and password and then log out and log back in. I have to log in separately to approve requisitions in Milton and then Wakefield and the SAU. And to approve time off, I have to log in separately to Milton and then Wakefield and then the SAU. So it's an example of bringing our technologies together and using data more efficiently. And I was very, very excited by the work. What we plan to do next, our next step, is to bring in people from that have different data sets in the schools. Our guidance counselors have some different data needs. Our building secretaries clearly have some different data needs. Teachers have different data needs. Mary, myself, bringing a range of stakeholders with different data needs together and sharing what everybody needs so that then we can have these experts, particularly the people that are working with the state in 2 revolutions, because the state's revising the data they want, so they really know what data we're going to have to provide. And they should be able to give us a lot of more administrative efficiency and ease of access. They're also going to work with us on training, because we've got all of this student data. What do you do with it? We have one Mary to go around and help people make sense of all of it. But the easier it is to access and manipulate and organize, the easier it is for Mary to show people and them to be able to use the data independently. So that's a project that really got started, really last summer was when we started talking about it, and it's finally starting to come to fruition. And our goal is by the end of the summer to have a functioning integrated data system, so we don't have so much redundancy and we have a lot greater efficiency of use of data.
May I have a question? Sharing the data, I think the only question I would have is if you're sharing with a social worker or with our nurse, so you have medical records, you have information that's confidential about students that you don't want to share, will there be firewalls or security so that you can't share everything?
It's not about sharing. It's about individualization.
Okay.
When I log in,
Yeah, so
I have access to essentially everything except some of the stuff the guidance counselors have.
Right.
And when people from Wakefield, when Jerry logs in, he can't see the new students' performance data. And that's part of setting it all up, is individual permissions, so that you set it up once, and then everybody can do what they need to do.
Typically, like the classroom teacher would have access to the data for her students, and those would be her permissions. And the same with the social worker, and then you'd have permissions for the people that you have a need to know on, and not have without that.
My only concern was things like with the social worker or medical
Absolutely.
records, to make
Yeah,
sure that
the
there's
purple
an
law makes
additional
sure, right.
security there, so you
Yep.
couldn't, not just anyone could access that.
Yep.
Sounds like it'd save a lot of time. That sounds very
Absolutely.
time-consuming, what you have to do.
That's our hope. That's
Yeah.
our hope. And we certainly will. I've talked to Robert from Back Bay, and we pulled him into that first meeting briefly, and we're going to be including Back Bay to make sure that we don't come up with solutions that work well on paper, but they don't match our current level of technology.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a bad idea just to run that class just from just integrating all those different systems. Having some experience and having worked in a software company and whatnot, it's not always as simple as maybe it's described.
Right, some of them won't work, and that's part of what we were talking about, is there are some that the people we had in the room were aware that they have a level of compatibility, and some of them don't. And we looked at, do we need all of these? Some of these are redundant. We've got several different math measures. Excuse me, and we talked to people about which ones are we really using, which ones of these are helping us make decisions, and which ones are not as helpful, so that we simplify and organize. And we've talked from the beginning about Back Bay having to be an integral part of that discussion. It will be. That was all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Cafe services will be on the next agenda. Mary, you're up.
I'm up, okay. So, speaking of data, I have lots of data for you.
Do we need to move out of the,
Yeah, I'm going, I'm just going to ask you to, and the reason why I'm going to put it up is for the public. I just think it would be a really good idea for them to see the things that we're actually talking about here. So the first one that you have in front of you is the third grade. One of the things that...
are our heads in the way? Can you get that
Can you get
without?
that?
Fine.
Okay, just want to make sure.
One of the things about cohort data is when we looked at the longitudinal data
that the state gave us, we realized that
What's a cohort?
cohort
Remember, we're
is...
talking to
Oh,
the
thank
members
you,
of the public.
sorry. Cohort is the students that stay in Wakefield for their whole period of time. So obviously, the first year that they're tested for the NECAP is the third grade year. So 100% of the kids is the cohort, because that's the first year that they're tested. So that's why you see 100% on that. The next slide, or the next, it's going to take some time to look at this. The next information that you have is our third grade compared to the state. So if you take a look, this is the third grade reading compared to the state. So the blue area is those children that made proficient with distinction. Now this was for last year compared to last year's state, not this current year, not this current testing year. We won't get that data back until like the end of the month. I think it's released on the 31st of January. So that's when it'll be published. And as you can see, there's we need to do some work with, especially with our L1s. There's
But I think we need to make this more clear.
Mhm.
Can I just jump up for a
Sure,
minute?
please.
Particularly for those that are watching from home.
Sure.
So the blue section here is students that are proficient with distinction. This is the state column, this is the Wakefield column.
you.
So when you compare those two, Wakefield has a higher percentage of students with proficient with distinction than the state average for the same grade. If you look at our proficient students, there are a smaller percentage of Wakefield students that are proficient than the state as a whole. So we're doing very well at the very top. We have not quite as many in the middle. You look at the underperforming, below proficient and below proficient. These are fairly similar, but Wakefield has a few more below proficient proportionally than the state. And we have to be cautious that we don't have very many students in this
Correct.
grade.
Correct.
So we need to look at this over a number of years to tell whether or not this is consistent over time. And if we look at substantially below proficient, we have almost twice as many percentage-wise in our grade 3 from last year than the state's grade 3 from last year. So there's good news and bad news here. If you look at those that are not proficient, the yellow and red, we had a higher percentage in the lower two categories than the state. The good news is at the top that we had a higher percentage that were exceeding proficient.
Right, right. So that's just the third grade. So if you want to pass out the fourth grade.
That's actually the same, one is for math and one is for reading.
So you have, the first one was reading, the second slide is math. Should I pull that up? I don't have
So it seems, do you have the math on that?
I have it, hang on, I just have to get it.
Yeah, I just.
So this is the math here. So with the math, we have a fewer number of proficient with distinction than the state does, but we have a larger amount of proficient than the state does. We have a smaller percentage-wise of below proficient, however, we have a much larger percentage-wise of substantially below proficient.
So that's that area that we were focusing on.
So this is that area,
Yeah.
yeah.
What we would like to see, ideally, is if you went from the Paul school to the state school, to the Paul school to the state, that the lines went up every time. And on this one, we have more at the lowest level, we have more at the lowest 2 levels, we have more at the lowest 3 levels, and fewer at the top. You really like to see all of your directions going this way. So in math, we have more of a systemic problem than we do in reading. But remember, this is for a relatively small group. It's one grade. And only if we see the same problem across grades and across years can we tell that this is a consistent pattern in the whole school.
So then, moving on to fourth grade, if we look at the cohort, now, let me close this one and open the fourth grade. So now this is the cohort for fourth grade. 92% of the kids that started with us in third grade are still with us in fourth grade. And so 8% are new for 1 year. So 92%, that's really good. Yeah, we own those kids. Those are kids, they're ours.
So the next slides, when we compare them to the state, we're only going to compare that 92% against
Right.
the state, because
So-
we haven't really had a lot of opportunity to work with the 8% that were new to us.
Right. So this slide, the second slide here, is the reading of the number of students and where they scored. So I wanted to give you a clue that these are the same kids, okay, and how they scored differently from year to year. So this is the same kids, and this is how they scored differently from year to year. So we have, again, our L4s were higher in third than in fourth.
That's proficient with distinction.
Right.
The folks at home can't necessarily
Oh, I'm
read
sorry.
L4 and L3.
Proficient with distinction, and then the green, again, we had more green in the third grade year than in the fourth grade year. And then
So
The-
what this means,
the proficiency.
students who were with us for third grade testing and fourth grade testing, more of them were substantially below in fourth than in third. More of them were substantially below or below. More of them were below proficient with distinction. So this is exactly the opposite of the
What we
picture that we
want.
would like
Right,
to see
right,
and what we're
right.
working for.
Right, what we're working toward, exactly.
Do we have any idea of why such a drop? I mean, is it something that we've changed?
This much drop in these few students, in and of itself, is not necessarily predictive. What you're seeing, the folks at home aren't seeing, which is 4 years. We really need to look at that amount of data
Yeah.
to
So now
tell
this
the
is,
pattern.
this is the same fourth grade class as compared to the state for each of the years. So here's Paul Schools, third grade. Here's the same students in Paul. This is percentage now, this is not number. The last one was number, this is percentage. This is Paul School, this is Paul School, as compared to the state. So as you can see, our third grade class had much more proficient with distinction than the state.
Right.
Fewer with proficient, a little more with a below proficient, but the substantially below proficient for Paul School in the third grade year was much better than the state. Okay, if you look at Paul School compared to the state in the fourth grade year, so we have, again, a little fewer than the state for the proficient with distinction. The same with proficiency, larger here with below proficient, and about the
Pretty equal.
same for substantially below proficient.
So it seems like
But where
that
that
one.
test is really given in what, October?
Fall, October.
That's
Didn't that
not
just
really,
It's the teaching year.
but
So
that's not really evaluating what they learned as a third grader.
No, it's second
No.
grade.
Second grade.
it's second grade.
Right. So it's actually second or third. But didn't that just get changed too for the testing?
It's going to.
For the Smarter Balance, we'll be actually testing in
May.
the spring.
Right, yeah.
All right, so that was fourth for reading. Let me.
Well, actually, going from third to fourth grade, it would be what they learned in third grade.
In third grade, right.
Second and third, yeah.
But again,
Um,
that will change with smart balance, so you're teaching, you won't have a teaching year testing year any longer.
You'll be at the end of the.
Right, because sometimes when you look at your teaching year, you're going to have kids that aren't any longer with you. You have your testing year.
Mary,
And so it's just a little
Go
bit
to
different, because you
Zoom.
are always assessed,
on the
assessing
view,
the year
I'm sorry,
prior.
view up at the top tab, and zoom all the way down at the bottom, and go to like 80%, and you'll get your whole screen.
Thank you.
There you go.
Can you still see that?
We can, I'm just.
Okay, they probably can't.
Instead of scrolling up and down, you'll be able to read it a little
Yeah.
better.
All right.
You will.
So this is math for the 4th grade. Again, this is the number of students. The same number of students in the 3rd grade, the same number, so it'd be their 2nd grade teaching year, 3rd grade testing year. This is the 3rd grade testing year, 4th grade, 4th grade testing year, 3rd grade teaching year. And again, we have more in the proficient with distinction category in our 3rd grade year than our 4th grade year. And as you can see, that trend, again, as Mr. McIntyre pointed out, is not how we want to go. We really want to go the opposite way.
Now, this is the entire 4th grade, not one class?
This is the same kids, the exact same kids.
Okay, that's what I wondered.
That
Same
92%.
exact
This
kids,
is
all
what
right.
we're looking at. We're only looking at the 92%.
All right, good.
Because I wanted to make sure
So
that it
apples
was
to
the
apples,
same
good.
kids. We're
Right.
looking at the same kids. So,
This is the first time we've seen this, looking at the same kids.
right, it took a long time.
Oh, I bet it did.
But we got it, so, and that's the good news. Is that
And once
do
we have our data organized, it's gonna be easy to
Easier.
just add
Yeah.
years to this.
Right.
and
Right,
we'll
I'll be able to
get-
drop in once we get that new
But this is the
data.
way we should be looking at it, not the way the state
Because it
has
makes more
teaching
sense to look
and
at it this
testing,
way.
you know. It does make sense.
It does, it does.
I like this, it gives you a
So
much
this
more-
is the, this is math compared to the state. This is percentage now. And this is Paul School, state, for the 3rd grade and the 4th grade year.
So that 4th grade year, we had less proficient with distinction, but we did increase proficiency.
Yes, we did, yeah. Probably about,
Well, we didn't really. We didn't
It's not
increase
really
the
the-
proficiency because here's what
because here's
happened.
your proficiency
Viv, is-
here.
Is
Here's a
these students
57%.
here
Right,
fell into this group.
right.
yeah, so they dropped.
So here's the 57% and that's 57%. So they didn't lose, what we lost is the top guys.
Yeah, that's why you want to look at the direction of the trend.
Yeah.
And the trend is the lowest group went up, the 2 lowest groups combined went up, the 3 lowest groups combined went up,
Instead
and
of,
the top group went down. So in every case, where the longer students were with us in these 2 years, which was 2 years in the past, the longer these students were with us, the less successful they were as a cohort group compared to their state peers.
now when we're doing the data meetings, we're going to be, I'm going to be bringing these graphs to the teachers so that they see where their kids are, that the kids that they're
Yeah.
teaching now. I did not have them ready for last data, round of data meetings, but I have them ready for this round that's coming up. Plus, we will have the benchmarking at that time too, so we'll have lots of data to share with them.
And you'll actually, the end of January, you'll have the following year, so you can add another year
Yep.
to it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think it's also important to, we talk about percentage points, but we're talking real kids, and how many percentage points, about 2.5 to 3%
About
per child.
Yeah, per child.
So if you look at, say.
That's why I did the number
and
one, because I thought it was really important that you saw number-wise
Right.
exactly how those kids moved
So
to.
if you look at the 3rd column, Wakefield, 2011, 4th grade, that's, it's about 12%. So that, that really you're looking at is 4 kids.
But no matter how you look at it, it's a snapshot in time.
Right.
You're feeling good, you had sleep the night before, one kid can be tested this week, the same kid could be tested next month or next week, and, they're gonna get a different score depending on the amount of sleep.
Sometimes we're looking at, the kids who I kind of call the just over and the just under kids that are right on that cusp
Right.
of
They
being,
could, or-
making proficiency or not making proficiency, or making it from L1 to L2 or L2 to L3. And how do you get, whether it's they didn't have a good breakfast, there's a problem at home,
Right.
that dog died,
That's it.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
that
Right.
really can make or break them that given day. And those are the kids that we really need to put an awful lot of effort into to
Right.
boost up their skills so that it isn't really a matter of environment or culture in that day, that really they're prepared.
So you have enough of
Yep.
the so that we can.
So this is 5th grade year, which is actually 4th grade teaching year, 5th grade testing year. And again, 90% of our kids are staying with us. So it was 92, now it's 90. I mean, it doesn't really drop very much lower than that. You'll see that the lowest grade is actually 6th grade year, it drops to 79%, but no lower.
So we're not as transient as they thought.
They aren't, they're ours.
Yeah.
They're really ours. So, 7% was at 1 year and 3% was at 2 years. So, those that came in on fourth grade year stayed for fourth and fifth, and then one came, there's 7% of them that came in only for fifth grade. So, let me go back. Whoops. Need to do that. Yep, I'm going the wrong way.
This one's a good one to show you how a few students going one way or the other, and the
Yeah,
colors really
yeah.
change, because the fourth grade year that you see looks quite different than the third and the fifth grade year, and that's what Jerry's talking about. Some of these one or two correct or incorrect answers makes the difference as to what category they fall in, and that's why, as Priscilla said, looking at these across multiple years is really the way to go.
So this is the same kids for the 3 years now.
This is a different set of students,
Different set of students. This
but
is
it
the
is a set of
90%.
students for 3 years.
The 90% of the current sixth grade students who took the test as fifth graders. And it wasn't really fifth graders taking the test, it was fourth graders. So this is a way lagging indicator. I mean, it really, as Priscilla said, it only gives us a snapshot in time. And that time is already passed. By the time we get the data, that time is long gone. So, again, what's interesting is in 2010, we did a great job with that one student. Because I believe that's only one student. And that one student actually made gains and we're no longer substantially below proficient. But then something happened. So we need to work on that.
I'd expect fluctuations like this, knowing with the scenarios you just gave. You'd expect this.
And that's why you look at those scores that come out in the newspaper, and it's 1 year, it's one shot in time. What really matters is trends, and trends take years to establish, and by the time you can see the trend, the work that you did that established the trend is old work. I mean, you're really chasing after old information to try to make sense of this.
Yeah.
I never look at this as a real indicator of student progress, but really, I usually talk about trending in the school. You just said it's a snapshot. I kind of refer to it as, you get the snapshot of that moment in time, that day, what they were doing in math, as opposed to the video of the whole year, and how we look at their growth, their ups and their downs, and their progress they make over the course of a year.
Yeah.
But there are benefits if you had all of a sudden everybody in the yellow area, then you'd say, well, we have a problem at Paul's school, so this,
I'm hoping to see some more value in this when we move to summer balance, and we are really seeing it without that summer break.
Well, if you look at the way this is trending, the kids are doing worse the longer they're with us.
Yeah.
And that bothers me.
Well, wait till you see the 8th grade year. I think you'll be a little happier when you see the 8th grade year. So the interesting part is that Paul School, again, on the 3rd grade year, for some reason, that 3rd grade year has been really strong throughout. We did better than the state, on many of the indicators. In fact, all of them, as Mr. McIntyre was saying, we want slopes like this, and this is a perfect example of the slope that we want.
Yeah.
So we give credit to our K1 too, right?
So that's
Probably.
when
and
they're
the
really
fact that
getting.
those kids are sponges at that age, and they want to learn.
But there's sponges at that age in every school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, exactly.
It does allow you sometimes at budget time to look at trends and say, when we go back over a number of years, we see that students between, let's just say, between 3rd grade and 4th grade, we're seeing a trend that we're not going the direction that we want to go in that 3rd grade year. So when we're focusing on professional development, do we send that 3rd grade team to some training together?
Right.
What is exactly is it about that third grade team? I'm not saying it is the third grade team, I picked that name out of a hat.
Would be the second. Yeah.
But look at individual teams, look at the curriculum at that grade level. There are a lot of questions to be answered from this
It looks
data.
like the fifth grade is struggling the most.
I get that.
So this is the current seventh grade coming up here that Jerry's passing out now. This is our lowest percentage of kids that have stayed in our district, so, or in our school. So 79% of the sixth grade that was tested in 2011, so it's the current seventh grade year, had 79%. 16% though had 3 years in the district or in the school. So because Wakefield is the same district, I'm using them interchangeably. 2% had 2 years and 3% had 1 year in the school. So again, the majority of these kids are ours, and they've been with us for 3 years or more. I mean, I thought that was probably one of the most significant things when I was looking at the data, that these kids are really our kids. So here's the sixth grade, which is the current seventh grade. And these are, again, the same children, the same students throughout their career. And what's nice about this graph is take a look at proficient with distinction. It's increasing on the fifth grade. That's what we want to see. A little bit of a decrease on the sixth grade, but between this fifth grade and this sixth grade year, look what happened with the substantially below proficient. So that's good.
And again, I think it's important to recognize that these percentages are real kids, so when you have kids coming and going, you may lose kids who are in the blue, and you may gain kids in the red, or you may lose kids in the red and gain kids in the blue. I mean, it really is.
It's 1 or 2 kids, and if they're on that bubble, you know, it's going to make all the difference.
One of the things that we're doing is drilling
And
down.
this is number of kids, so that we know for a fact that this is 3 children. This is 3 students here. But we were able to do something in reading for those 3 students so that they went up a level. So
One of the things we talked about today in our data meetings was really drilling down into who these kids are and looking at the interventions that they received when they had their ups and downs and what's working, what's not working again, and just getting more into this data and kind of getting away from percentages and really getting who's the real person behind the percentage.
So again, this is compared to the state.
Can you just back up one slide?
Sure.
When I start to think about how we're doing as a whole school, what I like to do is look across these years and do what I did before, but skip some years, the intervening years, and look at the trend from here to here. In the course of 3 years, the number proficient with distinction doubled.
Isn't that nice?
The number that were either proficient or higher stayed the same. The number who were substantially below proficient reduced.
Yeah.
This is when you start to see trend data. They're with us for a few years, and they were getting better performance by the end, even if there's some ups and downs in the middle. That's what we want to see.
Yep. So 6th grade for state with math. I'm just going to show you state with math. The comparison, because you have the individual numbers of children, but that shows you another trend there. And again, even this for the 3rd grade year, and all the way to the 6th grade year. There's been some movement, unfortunately, in the substantially below proficient level, as Jay was saying, when you're looking across this way.
Oh, we did have an increase in the proficient with distinction.
Yeah, if you look,
This is state.
look at where this line is right here. This separation line from here over here is essentially in the same place.
Mhm.
So we took kids who were proficient. Most of them stayed proficient, but some of them moved up into proficient with distinction.
This is Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. So Paul's first, state is second. And I should have put a box around it or something to distinguish
All
the
right,
two.
now I'm confused then. Sorry.
So here's Paul and Paul. But you're right, the line here,
Is quite stable. So where we have a concern, we don't have a significant concern here.
that's one chart.
We don't have a significant concern here. But when we look at what happens across time, well, where does this suggest we emphasize our work with an intervention? Do we really need to focus right now on an intervention for our succeeding students getting higher? No, we're doing pretty much average with that. We'd still like to have more moving up, but we do see an indicator down here that suggests where we put our focus on in terms of making adjustments in curriculum and instruction is for those students who were below proficient, because our trend is to have them fall
Yeah.
even lower.
And that's one of the reasons why we're so active right now in the RTI network with the state and trying to get help in our RTI model. And our RTI team is rocking. I think we're doing a pretty good job right now. So, and we're just going to continue working through that, so. All right, so then the next is 7th, and I'll try to be fast. I know it's getting late.
No, that's just me. Once I start, it doesn't stop.
So the 7th grade, the years in the 7th grade, not too much different than the 6th grade. It's 80% instead of 79%, so it's pretty stable. We have a pretty stable population, you know? And especially when you think about just 1 year different. If you take the 1 year different, if they've been here for the 4 years or the 5th year, so 4 or 5 years, that's 90%.
90% of it, yeah.
So we have a pretty stable population here at Fall School. Even though the impression was that it's a lot of transients, it's not really. It's pretty stable. And that is, so here's the number of students, again, in reading.
Now this one's going the right direction.
Yeah.
This
So
one
that's
you're
why I
gonna like.
wanted you to have hope. Mrs. Nason, have hope. We're getting there. So, as you can see, here's their 3rd grade year. Take a look now where they are. Really nice. A nice,
Definitely. So really what's the only thing is, well,
but
something better.
but it's okay
substantially
if we
below.
have more proficient with distinction than proficient.
Right, right.
As long as this part is going down.
Right.
And we're trending
It's
there.
the slope of that trend that you want to
Yep,
look at.
exactly.
It seems like where we're just stuck a little is with that below proficient, that section right there. Seems to be maintained the same.
But look where it started over in 3rd grade.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely much
And
better.
it's much better.
And this is the comparison to the state percentages for reading. I can get there. Sorry, I should have set this up so that it's easier to read. But again, nice trend. We are actually, this is Paul, this is the state. I'm happy with that.
The trend is the right direction.
It is.
By the time we get to the 8th grade year. Either
So
compared
this is
to them in
7th
3rd
grade
grade or
year,
compared
this
to
is the
state.
current 8th grade year, but this is 7th grade year, so it's the 6th grade teaching year.
Right.
Okay, so just keep that in mind. I know it's really hard when I have all of these numbers and years and all of that kind of stuff. And then finally,
So do we have any data from maybe the kids at Spalding, 9th and 10th grade, so we can find out how we're doing in our 7th and 8th grade teaching?
the only year that we have would be 11th grade, and I can actually ask Mrs. Moriarty if she'd share that with us. I'm pretty sure she'd be amenable to that.
But
to
you're probably
see
gonna
it.
get teaching and testing, and are you going to get cohort?
We can match it to the
Yeah.
same 8th
Oh,
grade
okay, good.
kiddos. We can actually take the 8th grade
Roll?
graduation roll and match it up to the 11th grade
That
that
would be
took
nice.
took the test in Spalding.
That would be great, we've never seen that, so.
Okay, I could do that for you,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have all of that, so I can do that. Of course, it'll take a while to collate, but I can do that. So again, this is compared to the state. And this is in math for the 7th grade. And then, of course, the last one, and we'll go breeze through it really quickly, and that's the 8th grade year. So again, we're at 89%. So the kids that have stayed with us for 6 years, testing in their 8th grade year is 89%, almost 90%. And then if you take the ones with the 5th grade, or the 5 years, you're almost at 95%, you're at 93%. So we own these kids. These kids are ours. And it would be interesting to see how they're doing in Spalding, to see how they're doing.
This is the surprise of the night. We keep being told we're transient. No?
I know.
We're not.
I know, that's why I wanted to put
Yeah.
those graphs in, because
pretty
they're
amazing.
our kids, we have to
Yeah.
own them. Exactly.
It's really an eye-opener, Mary.
Yeah. So, and here's our 8th, whoop, wrong way, Mary. So these are, again, the kids in numbers for the reading in our 8th grade. 7th grade year seems to look like the best, which is not surprising given what the 8th graders are going through.
But they're still doing considerably better than they were, that same group when they were here in
And
first
3rd grade, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's the same students.
So the next slide allows us to talk about one of the main things that's going to be different between Smarter Balanced and NECAP. What NECAP does is it looks only at these 2 columns. It compares, can you go down a little bit lower?
Yep.
It compares Wakefield students against their peers
At the state, yeah.
at the state level. And what Smarter Balanced is going to do is it will do that comparison, but it's essentially on a 2-way axis. It will compare them against the state, but it will also compare them against themselves. And if your students are performing less well in the test than the state, but they're performing better than they were before, it's going to show that you are having a positive effect as a school. The way it looks now with NECAP is it makes you look like you're not having a positive effect. So one of the goals of Smarter Balanced is to give credit for schools that are taking students on the right direction on their educational journey. There are some schools that are among the highest performing in the state that don't look that great on Smarter Balanced because the students came in kindergarten that high performing, and over time their performance has eroded some, and they're still performing better than we are because they started with a different group. So Smarter Balanced is going to allow you to look at 2 things: comparison to the state and how you have improved students against themselves.
So it'll be a true peer model, it'll be a true student growth model. And that's what the one thing that we've been asking the state to do for a long time now, and they're finally up there. So, and so, just really quickly, I will show you the 8th grade math compared to the state. And then we can move on.
You can scroll a little bit more so we can see the
years.
The years. Again, all the trend lines are in the right direction, although the substantially below proficient is pretty much stable.
Yeah.
But all the other trend lines are in the right direction.
Right, right. So that's why I said take heart, because I think that we are in the right direction. I think that the things that we have in place, the cases meeting, the data meetings, I think are all helping with, having that accountability piece. So, you're welcome.
Mary, thank you
very
for all
much.
this work. This is the first time I've seen it presented like this.
Well, let me show
I know
you-
it's a lot of work, and I really appreciate it. I've
Oh,
seen a lot of these, and this is clear.
You're welcome. I just want to show you what actually had to be done.
in order, this is the data set that I got from the state. In order for me to make sure that the cohort was the cohort, I had to go back into who took the test at Paul's school, and that's what I had to shade.
You got some
my
names
gosh.
showing up on the
Oops,
right side,
sorry.
Mary.
Sorry, I don't mean to. Have that, okay. So then I had to just color code them and then collate them with every single year.
Oh my
So it did
gosh.
take a lot
Oh,
of
I don't doubt
time.
it.
But the nice thing is it's done
There
and
you
I can
have
just, I can plop the
just
next
add it
year
to
in.
it.
Thank you,
So-
thank you.
Thank you so much. This
You're
is
welcome.
tremendous.
I've seen a lot of testing, teaching. This is so clear. This really gives us a much better idea.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes, Mary, that was a great job.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Several meetings ago, we all got the administrative procedures, visitor, bidding, and the multipurpose room fee proposal. Does everybody have those with them tonight?
It's not in the packet, but I'm familiar with
They were in the packet a couple meetings ago and we postponed it.
I know what packet's it. I know what my packet is that has it, but it's not here.
Okay, you don't have them? Okay, all right,
Okay.
Jay, could we have new ones put in the next packet?
And give me the names again so that I don't make any mistakes.
Volunteer,
Yeah,
bidding,
yeah.
and facility use fee proposal. I'll put it on the next agenda. Jerry?
Yes.
What are we doing with the academic approval for music, art, and technology?
Yes, sir. You know, the one for health was a quick and easy one. We just had to kind of go in and say, yes, she is certified. Music is a little more involved, and so Mr. Kendrick is incorporating all the shortcomings that we came with over the course of the school year. We'll present that to the state at the end of the year, along with that digital portfolio, which kind of fell by the wayside. And so I expect to be presenting that probably in June. Once we've integrated everything the state brought forward to us, and we'll refile for approval.
Okay.
But I'd probably expect to give that to you late June, early July.
Okay. Back Bay report. Everyone receive that via email?
Yes.
Did anyone have any questions on it? Jay, did you want to add anything to this, or was this something that you developed together with them, or?
Well, they developed it. I had a couple of meetings with Steve and Warren a few months ago, and we talked about the report that you were actually looking for, and I saw earlier drafts, but this final draft, I didn't make any changes to after I got it from Warren.
It's just an overview of what we're doing and what the projects are. So a lot of it is driven by the technology committee. And then, well, most of it is, and then, how we're meeting the requests, or where the district wants to go, or the school wants to go with technology.
I don't know, maybe Steve or Jerry might be able to answer this question, because they go to the selectmen's meetings. Are the selectmen going to do virtual town hall?
That's what I was wondering.
Can the school
That's what I was thinking when we
jump
were
on that?
talking about it, because there was discussion because the police and fire have their own websites, and they're gonna do away with their own and go on to virtual town hall. So I was thinking when they were talking about it earlier, is whether we could incorporate ours onto the virtual town hall, and then you'd have like a one-stop for the whole town.
I asked Warren about that at our meeting, as a matter of fact, because I knew that the town was going to virtual town hall, and I'd asked him if he'd heard of that. He said there were a lot of,
Well, virtual town hall is like more specialized for towns and cities and like the municipality, like, and I have not looked at it. I know of it. I know one of the town governments that we do use is that solution. There are those for schools that are more specific to schools that might make more sense. So, but now looking at it specifically, I don't know if it makes sense or not. It's just really, but that also really comes back to what the schools want on their websites, what information, you know, needs to be provided, and then you take that and compare that against what the virtual town hall might have to offer. But it's the same concept, where regardless of what the solution is, it's still trying to achieve the same goal as what the town is why are we duplicating efforts, and why don't we centralize things or have a system that is more streamlined for what you guys want to do.
Well, I think at the very least, we probably should almost, because as it is now, when you go on to the town's website, when you click on the school, you can click on the school and it directs you to the school website. So I think that, you know, for at the very minimum, there should be a link to the school on virtual town hall. And whether we use another, web, or we're gonna go with virtual town hall, we'll have to figure that out, but I think there should be a link to it right from virtual town hall.
that's on the list that we made, Warren, that link.
Jerry, did you want to?
Yeah, I think that question came up at one of the meetings, and like we pointed out, virtual town hall they do towns, and they said there are other companies that do school websites because they kind of specialize in that, so I think that question did come up at one of the meetings, and virtual town hall is more directed toward town operations than school.
Thank you.
Before we move on, would you allow me to add something that I really should have said under administrative notes very briefly? I wanted to let people of the town know who might not know that Concerned Residents of Wakefield had a meeting 2 weeks ago specifically about school security, and it was very well attended. There were about 20 people there. Mr. Brown was there, and I was there. But it was really, really nice to see the level of commitment and the interest, and they brought in people with expertise in security, from the police chief to others in the community, and it was just very, very nice to see, as someone that has to think about school security every day, how much support there is in the citizens of Wakefield. So I just wanted to thank that group and everyone in town for their interest in school security.
Thank you. Let's see. Warren, was there anything you wanted to add, or?
Anything I want to add, let's see. Not really beyond that, what the goals of the technology committee were, working with them to meet those. And I know Nate and I are going to be doing some work on some of the audiovisual stuff, evaluating the Apple TVs as a visual system for the classrooms, and so that would be interesting. But it's active. I mean, for some things, a lot of different projects going on. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary, do you want to take off?
Oh,
if you,
that'd be lovely.
So
Thank
you
you.
don't, I didn't want you to think you had to sit here. It's Friday night.
It is.
Date night.
Well, my husband's already started.
Let's move on
unfortunately.
to
I have to catch up.
warrant articles. We need to assign who's going to speak at the deliberative session on each article. Ms. start with Article 2. Could we have one meeting, please? Article 2 is the para contract.
You want to do the teacher and I do the para?
You want to do the,
I'll do the para and you do the teacher.
okay, so Pricilla on Article 2. Now you'll move it, we need a move in a second, right?
Mhm.
So do you want to move it
I'll
and
move the
I'll
article.
second it? And then you talk to it?
Yeah.
And on Article, you're gonna move in second, 3 as well, in
Yes,
case
and
there,
three.
we need another meeting.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Bye, Mary, thank you.
Good night, thank you again.
Have a good weekend.
See you later. Yeah, have a good weekend. Have a
Thank
good
you,
weekend.
too.
Talk to you later.
Okay, Article
4, you're going to move?
4, I'll move, you'll second.
Okay.
I'll speak to it in Article 5 the same, because that's to ask for a meeting on,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Article 6 is the budget.
Usually the chair does that, Judy.
I'll do that, because I was the budget rep. I just
Yeah.
need someone to second it.
I'll second it.
Dave will second.
Article 7 is the SAU. Pricilla, you're the SAU chair.
Yeah,
you
I'll
wanna
do that. I did it last year. I'll do it again.
So we need someone to second that.
I can second it.
Article 8 is the purchase of the property.
Liz?
I think Liz would be the perfect one to do it.
If she's available.
Yeah, let's put Liz
Depends on-
down and we can, if she's not, then we'll deal with it.
Who's going to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, so
I heard 3 people say they'd second it.
I'll
so-
second it.
Okay, so Liz and Priscilla?
Yeah.
Should we make a determination if she's unable to?
Yeah, who's going to do this if Liz is
Do you want me to
unable
do
to? Viv, you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll do it.
You'll do it.
I'm comfortable doing it.
It's just who talks first about it. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, I make a motion to move this article. The other person's going to second it. And then whoever we're choosing now is going to be the first person to speak on it, to explain it. It doesn't necessarily mean that no one else can chip in if they want to or talk. It's just like the initial bringing up
Article 8, we have Liz and then Priscilla, and if she's unable, then it'll be
Viv and
me and
Pricilla.
Priscilla. Okay.
The security warrant article, I'll do that if nobody else wants to.
I'll second.
Steve, will you do the roof and the boilers? So Article 10, and we need someone to second that.
I can do it. Go. Whoever. Are you doing it, Priscilla?
Yeah, that's fine. We're going to do one, you do the other.
And I'm gonna put Pricilla on, I'm putting Steve down for 10 for the roof, and Priscilla's seconding it. And 12 would be Steve
And
for the
Viv.
boilers and Viv seconding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Article 11 is the special ed. Liz usually does that one.
We're going to put Liz down then.
If someone wants to second,
I'll second.
and who's gonna do it if Liz can't?
I can do it. You want to reverse it?
Okay.
I'll do it and then just get
Yeah,
someone to second.
that sounds good.
All right, so if Liz is unable, then I'll do it, and then
Priscilla
I just need,
second.
and Priscilla second. Okay?
And Article 13 is joining the SAU article. I'll do that if no one wants to. Need a second.
Second.
Steve, okay.
Okay.
Is that all of them?
I think that's it.
Did I get them all?
Yep.
Okay, I had a question, Jay, on the warrant articles. I looked up RSA 194C, which has to do with the withdrawal of provision.
Yep.
And you can read this one of 2 ways. it says, the school district shall have a public hearing, but I'm reading it that that's in districts without annual meetings. So I just want to
Yeah,
make
which
sure that
section
we
under
don't have to have
194?
194C2. I just want to make sure that we're not required to have a public hearing.
Yeah, last time we did it, we had regular town meetings, so last time we put this on, so that would be different. I believe.
Organization, regulation, and withdrawal. In districts without annual meetings, the legislative body considers and acts upon the question in accordance with the current procedures. But we do have an annual.
Okay, so we're not required to have a public hearing. It goes on to B, the school district legislative body shall hold a public hearing on the question at least 15 days, but not more than 30 days. Does that fall under districts without annual meetings, or does that fall under any school district? Because 2A says in district without annual meetings, but B doesn't.
It appears, boy, that's a good question. I think that may be the question that we want to just get a quick response from council, because I see what you mean. It's hard to tell.
To me, we need a public hearing just to cover ourselves.
Liz, it's not a bad thing to have a public hearing. It's never a bad thing to have a public hearing. It's another night out, but then you hear from your public about whether or not they're interested. The other thing you can do with the public hearing is try to identify people who might be interested in serving. So it's
Might
maybe
be
something that we
our
would
best
choose to do
interest to have the
anyway, but
public
let me
hearing.
make a note and
Then we'd cover.
Well, it
confirm.
needs to be advertised at least 7 days prior to the hearing, and it has to be at least 15 days, but not more than 30 days before it's to be voted on.
so we got to do it right away.
So we vote in
Next week.
March, so this has to be done by February 12th, and we need to advertise it 7 days before.
Yeah,
So by the
beginning
5th.
of February.
So we could do it at a
I'm thinking our
regular
second meeting
Second meeting
in
in February.
Mhm.
Rather than waste the legal opinion money, why don't we just do it?
Just have the hearing.
Yeah, there's.
Well, our
there's no
standard
harm in
practice
it.
is to have a public hearing anyway,
Well,
so
plus,
let's
like
do it.
Jay said, that we'll also have input, and
Yeah.
maybe people want to serve on that.
I think the moderator is the one that decides on who serves on that committee, if I remember correctly. But people will be able to start thinking about it.
All right, so we want a public hearing for the second meeting. Who's going to put that in the paper? Deb, is that something you can do? Or is that
can.
something that
I
we're
don't
gonna have
normally.
Kathy do?
Oh,
Who
Kathy
normally
can do it.
does it, Kathy?
So
Yeah.
our
Okay, we're gonna have-
regularly scheduled second meeting in February
Yeah,
will have a public hearing.
at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
We'll start our meeting with that.
Yes. 6 p.m.
That way we're just covered. Why waste the legal, 3-page letter to explain whether or not we have to or we don't have
For a
to?
yes or no answer.
And the second meeting in February would be the 16th. No, that's January. I lied. Wait a minute. Second meeting in February is the 20th.
And that falls within those dates, right? Yeah.
Good.
That'll save us an extra night out. Jerry, you wanted to talk to us about computers in the
Yeah,
library.
a couple of things I want to talk about. One is, we talked about the computer needs in the library probably 2 months ago. And one of the things we found is a decent alternative to bringing computers in is integrating the use of iPads. So right behind here, there is a bank of small little computers that are certainly not effective anywhere else, and really for checking out, but we're kind of outgrowing that also. So the idea was to use iPads and a kiosk, and a kiosk is basically a metal frame that sits on an angle, and the kids can use it. It's locked in, so the kids can't access anything else except for the catalog of the Alexandria catalog that we have in the library. I think it's a nice alternative. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space. The kids are becoming more familiar with the use of iPads, and rather than buying computers that aren't really compatible with the rest of our system, being the Macs, and the Macs are pretty pricey, and the iPads are relatively inexpensive compared to an $1,100 MacBook.
Okay, so how many do you want?
We're
What's
looking
the
at
price?
4. 4 iPads would come to a cost of $1,596 for the iPads, $396 for the Apple Care, for the upgrade, and $892 for the 4 kiosks. So that would cover everything we need.
So for a total of?
For a total of $2,884. And that would come out of the tech reserve fund.
But you're
Do we
asking
have
for
that
4.
much?
Excuse me?
Do we have that much in the tech reserve fund?
What we don't have in the tech reserve fund, I can make up out of our tech budget.
You mentioned 4, but aren't there 5 computers there?
Yeah, we thought we could get by with 4.
So you don't think that we need that extra with all
That
the
was not
children?
Nicole's assessment.
No. Okay, great.
All right, where this is coming out of a capital reserve fund, we'll have to have a public hearing. So we can do that at our next meeting,
Excellent.
Sure.
if everyone's in agreement to spend that money that way. First, we should probably take a vote to do that, or someone make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the $2,884 for 4 iPads for the library.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll have a public hearing on our next meeting, which is February 6th
You know, I didn't mention this to you, Judy.
at 6. Sorry. Is it?
What day are we looking at?
The first Wednesday in February.
Well, if the 20th...
It's the 6th.
Okay.
I was approached by the town to use the gym for voting in March. Now, I know that's typically something that you have done, and that would happen during a school day, but with our current security concerns,
We don't
No,
do
we
the
don't do that.
town.
Only
You haven't.
presidential.
We only do the government,
Presidential.
presidential
Yeah,
Right.
no.
election every 4 years.
then we don't have to worry about that now, but again, my concern was the security
Security.
issues that we don't, you know, and Jay and I had talked about it, and how would we manage that security?
Who requested that?
I forget the woman's name, was a message I got from someone from the town.
Money?
Somebody else. I
Money?
think it's Monique, I was gonna say Monica.
Because that's odd, because we've been having it at
Yeah,
the...
only present, and especially with students
It's
in
not
the
something
building.
you've typically done.
with security.
No, it's typically
No.
done at the...
Only the presidential,
Right.
and we close school
We
day.
don't
Right,
have students
so
in the
there's not
school.
a security issue.
Beautiful, makes my life easy.
For some reason, the ink contract got stuck under committee reports. It shouldn't be. It should be under school board business, so we can move that up. Viv, you would put that on?
I did, because we did get that addendum, but that was only through June 30th. And if you read it there, it's questionable as to whether or not beyond that, that it still go back to the original. The addendum only specifies up to June 30th. So I'd just like to get some clarification on that.
We did a later one, which specifically said that at no time did Wakefield, and we can pull that out again, but we went through this numerous times, and the last one, remember, was the one that I wrote, and the board felt that it met all the criteria, but
It
it
did.
was frustrated that I had written it and not had the
Well,
attorney write it.
The only concern is that it did have an end date of June 30th, and the contract itself continues. So it's just to be sure, that that addendum will cover us.
All right.
But that's it.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what that was, so
No,
we
not a
didn't
problem.
bring it with us.
No, not a problem.
And we'll have to put our ink purchasing out to bid?
Yes. I think that should probably be done fairly soon as well.
All right. Ad hoc committee report?
Yep. Jay and I attended an ad hoc committee meeting on January 8th, and what we did is we reviewed a student survey that was completed by Spalding High School and Rochester Middle School, and actually the results were quite surprising. We expected the majority of the Wakefield students to want the later start time, and Jay and I were both shocked to see that the majority actually wanted the time to stay the same and did not want it. We haven't really decided on how much we would like to move the time. There was talk about maybe just 30 minutes. But the majority of the Wakefield students decided that they want to keep it the same. And our student representative, Megan Haskell, is a Spalding High School student. She lives here in Wakefield, and her input was that the survey does not show an accurate figure because there were rumors all over Spalding High School that if we move the start time even as little as 30 minutes, that the Wakefield School Board was going to be pulling all of their students out of Spalding High School. And the students who are there don't want to be pulled out of Spalding High School, they like it there. So because of that, this went around for approximately 2 weeks, is what she had said. Because of that, she feels that this survey was not accurate as far as the Wakefield students were concerned, because they were saying they wanted to stay the same, so they didn't want to leave Spalding. So looking at that, however, the majority of them did feel that 30 minutes would have an impact on their schooling, on their education, because they are tired that A block. One of the teachers also stated that she has many Wakefield students that A block, and she does notice that they are really tired, and that 30 minutes would most likely, have a very positive effect. Jay and I also, we talked extensively about the concern about students being at bus stops at 5:45 in the morning, and that 30 minutes would certainly help, maybe with the daylight hours and also with parents. So we talked a little bit about that. How it ended up was that the consensus of the committee was to now have a survey go out to parents. So we're going the next step. It doesn't mean that we're going to actually put this in place, but the committee voted to go the next step and to send out a parent survey. So at this time, Assistant Superintendent Mary Moriarty has drawn up a draft, and the board will be getting a copy of the draft for input. And certainly, we'd love Wakefield parents to weigh in on this, because this is your children. How do you feel about that 30 minutes? And would it help you in any way? Do you feel that starting school at 8 o'clock rather than 7:30 would benefit your child and your family, or do you feel that it would be an adherence? So it's really important that we hear from you. You can certainly weigh in by contacting any of the board members or sending something in, to Mr. Gregoire or to Mr. McIntyre. It's really important that we have this before the 29th of January. So if you have any concerns or if you have any input, please contact one of us so that we can bring that to the ad hoc committee meeting on the 29th. The survey is, we're going to be getting the input. We're going to be reviewing it on the 29th of January. If the committee approves the survey, we will bring it back in front of you with the Wakefield School Board for approval, and then we'll decide on how we'll be distributing it to our families. We will also be sending it home with the K through 8 here at the Paul School, because the one thing is that if we change the start time for Spalding High School by 30 minutes, it will mean that the Paul School start time will also change. So we want to make sure you're aware of that. It means that rather than starting school here at 8:30, it would be 9 o'clock until 3:30, should we all agree that the 30 minutes would be beneficial. This is not something that's going to happen in a year. We're looking at about 2 years, right? Before we can implement this. Will probably be 2015, 2016 school year. So it is a long process. So we hope to hear from the majority of our community and get your input on what you'd like us to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Steve, anything from the tech committee?
They're implementing Google Drive as we speak. Give me a second, and I'll dig my notes out here. They're trying to get approval from Dover to use their ICAN statement for the curriculum. They're working on the inventory. They passed around the labels. We discussed about the labels and the barcodes for the inventory. And that was about it.
Okay. What is ICAN?
The ICAN statements relate directly to the technology plan.
For the curriculum, you have to draw up, the state requires you to come up with a curriculum.
Oh, okay.
So they're trying to use Dover's, because Dover already has theirs, and they like Dover, so they want to use Dover's. But they have to ask Dover for their permission to use it.
Oh, okay.
We would be giving them credit in a footnote or a copyright type thing. I've contacted Dover and left some messages. I'm waiting to hear back again. I called again today. They were in meetings all day today because they had a teacher workshop. So I did not get a hold of them, but I am.
Do we have any idea from the technology committee as to how long it'll take before we can get like these labels going and this program?
Just a matter of ordering them and putting them on.
I'm sorry, what?
Just a matter of ordering them and putting the inventory in.
For the labels, and as far as the remote desktop, what we had talked about, being able to log our technology pieces owned by Apple, the Apple produced ones.
Right.
We're hoping to have that done in February for the majority of our products. That's an $80 purchase, maybe $160 total, because you might need to have it on 2 machines to do it. But once you put them on the machines, it can inventory an unlimited amount of equipment.
Oh, okay.
You just have to have the program on the machine. And right now, the way it was, we were thinking about doing it onto the server and being able to access it from Jerry's laptop and my laptop. But Warrant has told us that really what you need are multiple copyrights or licenses in order to have it on our machines.
Oh.
And it doesn't make sense for us to be going into the server room to try to log and find out where these computers are if we have an issue. We want to be able to do it from our own laptops to be able to do it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's why we're going to do that, and really the goal would be February to really start honing in on these while we're here already, taking care of some other things during February break, asking the teachers to leave their computers with us at that time so that we can start updating their machines. One of the processes of doing this is we need to have all of remote managing activated on all of our machines. Currently, they're not activated. In addition to activating remote management, we also need to put a uniformed administration password on there and really look at setting up a mirroring image so that the teachers have administrative rights to the computer within subcategories, just like what we do with networking and stuff, so that if they need to update their machine, they can do that on their own. But if they need to go into settings and change something, such as remote management, it can't be turned off by accident, because as good as the remote desktop is, if that feature is turned off, it's useless until someone reactivates it. And here's really what we're looking at is one of the great benefits of this is being able to keep track of what our computers are.
Right.
But if someone were to steal a computer and we're able to log into it as an administrator and turn the remote access off, it doesn't do anything for us. So we needed that only the administrators are able to turn off and on that program.
Yeah.
Okay, and it could just be a mere accident. They're trying to do file sharing or setting up, and they turn that feature off, and we don't want that off. So really what we'd be looking at for these inventory pieces to take all that and make sure it works correctly would be February for at least the teacher machines, and then over the summer, really integrating that into all of our machines.
Great, thank you.
And that administrative access too, is that also gives, it's kind of like a load jack for a computer, correct?
That's correct.
So we can track it wherever it is.
That's a good idea.
If it's in Portsmouth, it'll tell us where it is.
And one of the great,
That's awesome.
one of the great features of that too is if we find out the machine, we can look them up live. It'll put you right on a GPS map of where it's at. And if we feel as though the computer was compromised and it was taken, what we can do is next time we see that the computer is on, we can make it take a picture of whoever's using it.
Oh, wow.
so that if we think it's, you know, it could be a mere accident. It's taken. We think it's an issue of it's out and we're really worried about it. We take a picture. Then there's no denying that person was in front of that computer using it.
This level of security is really not something that we necessarily should be talking about in public session. In terms of the purpose of having that, in terms of a stolen laptop, it's not something we would typically talk about in public session.
There's no way we're taking them.
It's making progress.
Steve had asked me about a question at the Crow meeting, and that was about our security of our data and our confidentiality statements
Agreements.
signed by staff.
Well, state law provides confidentiality requirements on the part of staff. If staff reveal information that's a violation of FERPA or the Individuals with Disabilities Act, then there are consequences under the law for our employees. There's certainly no harm in just checking our employee contracts and making sure we could add a provision. I think it's already covered by law, but there's absolutely no harm in looking at our contracts and seeing whether or
That
not a
was,
clause could be added.
From Mike, that's, I guess, the head of IT from Rochester.
Yeah, right.
He
right.
was the one that said that you really need to start having confidentiality agreements with everyone.
Yeah, wouldn't hurt to have them.
And one more thing, Judy, that Jerry was talking about smart boards, but Warren did touch on it. They're looking at using Apple TV along with the LCD projectors to get the same result as a smart board for a far reduced cost.
Okay.
So,
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, we've got one Apple TV. An Apple TV isn't actually a TV. It's a module that attaches to the LCD projector, and it integrates with both either your laptop or your iPod, or your iPhone, or your iPad. It's pretty unique. Nate, you've been playing with it more than I have. Why don't you talk about that?
So what Apple TV can do, and unfortunately we don't have one set up for you right now to demo it, but what I would be able to do as a teacher or as a student, I would be able to have a program running on my iPad, and the Apple TV would be up there. I could walk anywhere around the room and be showing the students what's going on via an internet video or a program such as this one here, where I would be writing on it, and they would see it live as I write on it, draw on it, type on it. They would see it live as I go, and I wouldn't be tied to a certain spot, so I could walk around and see that they're doing it. And the next feature of that, all of our new MacBook Airs that we have work with Apple TVs as well. So the students could take a project and create it, a keynote or a PowerPoint. And they'll be making these projects or answering questions, and they can take over the screen. Now, the teacher has to set it up so that they can do that, but they can. And one person could answer a question, this is what I did, and throw it to the screen, like theoretically throws it, and their answer comes over to the screen. Then the next student goes, oh, well, this is the way I answered it. And it could be the same answer, but this is the way I answered it. And they push their image to the screen. And it would go around, and all these multiple images could come to the screen, taking turns.
Wow.
So it really makes it interactive, and it is like a smart board to where whatever you're doing for work is going up. You can do it so that it's your Word document going up from a computer. You could do it so that it's an iPad doing it. You could do it with a game. Say you have a game going on that you want everyone to take part of, and you'd be able to do that.
Yeah, it enhances the interactive.
Right.
The cost on the Apple TV is $100 plus, probably $10, $15 for one of our HDMI cords. So the cost is significantly reduced. We already have the LCD projectors.
Yeah.
We're test driving this now, and we're going to try out some other apps with the iPad as well as the computers. But this allows students to, even with their iPhone, their iPod, to do the same work, even if they don't have the iPad in front of them or the laptop. it really enhances our ability and also kind of increases our need for probably bring your own device as we look at some technology, policies and practices in the building. It's pretty
sounds
exciting.
fascinating.
It's pretty cool stuff.
It does. It sounds
It is fun stuff that we're looking at right now.
Viv, PD committee?
I think I'm going to pass that over to Jay. Because unfortunately, I was only there for the first 20 minutes, and I had to head to Rochester for another committee meeting. So Jay was
Yeah, and
did the presentation.
I was not there much longer than Viv was, maybe another 5 minutes. The Professional Development Committee is working in a group of subcommittees. One subcommittee is essentially making corrections, technical corrections to the document. One is looking at
Oh, yeah,
what
Jerry,
are-
which committee is yours?
well, they're all working on evaluations. The subcommittee that Viv and I are on is administrator
Right.
evaluations. Then I'm sorry, I didn't
Jerry, what
realize
committee
this
are
was
you
coming, or I would have brought my
Yeah.
packet.
Yeah.
It's not the, you guys have the admin.
Yeah.
We have admin. Yeah.
I can't think of the name of Judy. off the top of my head.
I'm sorry, there are 4 committees.
Yeah.
We'll try to be more organized for next time. What we're working on in terms of, I can tell you about our subcommittee, is the administrator evaluation tools that have been in place have been on the scale of simple to complex, they've been highly simple. Not very sophisticated instruments for measuring administrator performance. And what we've looked at, we haven't looked at a lot. We've been waiting for the state model, which hasn't come out yet. And we looked at a model that I came across, and what we are suggesting to do as a subcommittee is invite the board chair, so it would be the joint board chair, the Wakefield board chair, and the Milton board chair, to have a brief meeting with the developer of this evaluation system to see whether or not it's something that you would support bringing to the joint board, because it's not a simple 3-page piece of paper. If you're going to do the level of administrator evaluation that this model suggests, it's a significant amount of work. It's a very complicated model. So rather than us putting a lot of work into that, our suggestion, and Viv was unable to make the meeting at which we decided on this, which is unfortunate, but was to run it by the board chairs to see if they want to run it by the joint board, so that we at least get, we don't want to do anything that complicated, or we like the comprehensiveness of it. And then that can come back to the subcommittee, and we'll either look for something simpler or we'll keep going down this road. So that's the current status of that. There's a model that's in the professional growth plan that's really a administrator version of the teacher model that we're using now. And the role of a building principal, for example, is one of the most complicated roles from a task standpoint that exists. I mean, the person that I've been talking to about it says the only role that they've ever researched that is more complicated is a hospital administrator, which is similar to a building principal in terms of the number of people who report to them, the number of constituents they have to respond to. And my opinion, and that I think the whole committee, based on the feedback I've gotten, is that a very simple form, the current form, is just the superintendent evaluating the principal. Nobody else gets input. A principal's job involves so many more people than just a superintendent that it seems virtually impossible that you would get a quality evaluation, no matter how good the intention is of the superintendent. And that's why looking at a more comprehensive model is something that I support. And the committee is still working on looking at options. The principals haven't actually had a chance to look at this model yet, except to see in a very brief picture of it, but that's something that we're going to be bringing to them as well in a couple weeks.
I have a note for the committees. I can tell you what the committees are.
Oh, great.
Thank you, the subcommittees.
Yes. The first subcommittee is called the Diggers, and that is, they're dealing with changes including cleanup, misconceptions, grammatical errors, dates. They may be reviewing changes, who is evaluating the superintendent, how will student achievement data be used with administrators. And this is just a brief scenario, this was just my notes, so it's not formal. We do have, the second one is performance descriptors, and it's the initial SLO template merged with the state. They're making the format clearer. It meshes all wordiness, and they're trying to clean it up and make it teacher-friendly. The language is the same as the Danielson language. Things that they want to get addressed is what to do with the other 10% in the plan. And that's one of the things they're addressing now. 3 is the administrative evaluation team, which Jay and I are on. And he did a presentation. The state is working on a model for admin evals, but it's yet to be completed. And then you shared the plan by Bill Bryan, right? Okay, who researches school leadership. And then the next one is called S Cubed, which is, they are dealing with, let's see, psychologist, the nurse, library, media, and guidance. Evaluation forms are almost complete. Working still on paraprofessional, evals, art, music, PE, etc. are considered teachers are not part of this group. So this is just the specialist, which is psychologist, nurse, library, media, and guidance. And they have talking points. It says that at this point we're not sharing everything, what kind of work is going on. Let the staff know we have the subcommittees and they're trying to get staff contributions. And they're working on various aspects of the plan. So I apologize, I just have these brief notes because I did have to leave that meeting.
And keep your notes out, because Wellness Committee's next.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Wellness Committee. This past Wednesday, we didn't have a committee meeting. It was canceled because of the storm. So I can go over what we discussed in the first Wellness Committee that I attended. And what it was is that we're going to be looking at the vending machines, and we're looking at the nutritional value. Chris Farrell from Cafe Services is going to be joining us at the next Wellness Committee meeting. And he's going to be bringing a list of approved alternatives to the milk, but we'll have to have it in the vending machine. What he did talk about a little, and this is going to touch on the Food Advisory Board meeting as well, is that the children have to be served milk with every lunch. There's no option. It's a state requirement. But he's going to be bringing, right, he's going to be bringing a list of approved drinks that maybe we can fill the vending machine with, flavored waters, maybe Switch, and some low-sugar juices.
What happens to the child that can't drink milk? What do they get?
The child that can't drink milk is given juice right now, and I don't know how many we have, but I do know that the option in the cafeteria right now is juice. It's a low-sugar
There is
juice.
an option.
There is. They do know the children that cannot have milk, and the kitchen staff does have that set aside.
Okay.
So we're going to be looking at that. We are starting each week. Parents will see in the Wakefield Weekly. We're going to have Healthy Corner, and this week was the first one. It was a very short, just introduction. And Healthy Corner each week is going to be providing our community with a healthy recipe of the week. It'll have a healthy tip of the week, a fun fact for children, and also it'll have a link to websites, and all to do with health and nutrition. And this will be websites that may have games, things you can do at home, and some fun additional recipes or crafts that you can do with your children to teach them better nutrition. So the Wellness Committee will be working on that. They'll also be having activities that we're in the planning stage right now. We don't have another meeting scheduled yet. As I said, because of the storm, this Wednesday was canceled. So hopefully we'll have more report in the next one.
Food Advisory?
Food Advisory Board. We had, the first meeting was on January 15th, Chris Farrell from Cafe Services and Ruth Chick from Cafe Services were part of the board. Mr. Gregoire and Mr. D'Agostino, myself, Cindy Richards, who's the Paul School health teacher, Deb Wilson, and the Paul School Student Council. It was really a great meeting. The students had a lot of opinions, and it was very well received. What we do still need, however, is a Paul School parent representative. So Mr. Gregoire will be addressing that, because part of this advisory board does need a parent representative as well for their input. So that's what we'll be looking at. Some of the student favorites, what we got to hear was yogurt is a favorite, fruit, pizza. However, they would like to see cheese stuffed crust. That was a big thing. They wanted cheese stuffed crust. Tacos, chicken nuggets, cheeseburgers, hamburgers, these are things that they did like. One child complained they didn't like the fact that the yogurt's no longer filled to the top. It's only halfway. And when Chris said that, it's because of serving size, they strongly suggested that he get a smaller cup. So our students have no problem expressing their opinion. Some of the least favorites, they don't want the Alfredo sauce and kale chips, French fries and broccoli salad. They had some complaints that this vinegar and green beans makes them very sour. And so, Chris will, and Ruth said that they would, try to reduce that. And this is the first they had heard of it. Student comments, they really want soup, salad bar, corn dogs, yogurt-filled, more to the top, drink options. Again, Chris addressed the drink options. They really wanted to have other things with their lunch and be able to get water or juice. And as he said, that is not an option. He can, however, put it in the vending machine. The students would like to see a choice of more than one hot entree. Mrs. Chick said that what she sees as a possibility is the days that they may have similar entrees, where if they had spaghetti meatballs, they could probably do meatball sub as that second entree because they're using the same ingredients. And the other thing is maybe if they made quesadillas, then they can have steak and cheese sub. So if they have something similar, that's certainly a possibility, because they can kind of mix those. The students don't like cinnamon on their fruit. And one child said that some students are allergic to cinnamon, plus it tastes yucky. They asked about a snack cart. Years ago, we used to have a snack cart that went around the school. Students were able to purchase snacks. And unfortunately, as Mrs. Wilson pointed out, that program was provided by the ALT program, which we no longer have. And also, because we're contractually obligated to a food service, we cannot offer sale of any food items outside of cafe services. So then the kids want more packaged veggies, and they discussed the types of pizza. Mr. Farrell said there are many variations of pizza. The general consensus, their favorite is French bread. They want just the French bread first and foremost. They talked about the salad bar. The kids are they'd rather have a salad bar than the pre-made salad. However, Mr. Farrell made a good point, and that is that it's very difficult to keep a salad bar sanitary. And especially now with the recent flu outbreaks and everything, you certainly don't want to have a salad bar and to have everyone's names in it, hands in it, and, sneeze and so forth. So our students, being as verbal as they are, they said, well, why don't you just have somebody serve us at the salad bar and the soups, and that way, and they wear gloves and we don't have to worry about it. So they had answers for everything. Cafe Services is planning on experimenting with a made-to-order deli in February, but it'll only be offered to grades 7 and 8. Mr. Farrell went on to discuss the requirements of red and orange veggies and green veggies, and beans have to be served. And also that it's now, the serving sizes are smaller because they have to be between 600 and 650 calories for the meals that are served to the students. Mr. Gregoire explained that the kids were talking about how come the portions are small. And as Mr. Gregoire explained, they reduced portions because of the concern about increased obesity. And this is something that, all schools have to do. They complained about the reduced carton of milk, the size, and Mr. Farrow explained that it is smaller, but that's to make it more cost efficient. It was due to the cost. Mrs. Richards, our health teacher, is very concerned as far as adding the different drinks, because even 100% fruit juice the amount of carbohydrates in the juice is exorbitant. It was over 30 grams. So that was the concern. So we're trying to move more toward the water and flavored water and the low sugar. And that's pretty much it. We're going to be meeting again on February 12th. The only other thing we did is we did come up with a survey, and that's going to be going out to the parents.
The survey's right here.
Okay,
Let me
so
hand
we
that
have
around.
a survey. It was going to go out to the parents today, but the board hadn't seen the survey yet, so we needed to approve it first. So parents, please watch for the survey. It's very important that you do fill it out and get it back to us. This is the time where we have a lot of decisions to make. As you all know, cafe services, this year has been a pilot program. This is something we've never done before, and we have to make a decision based on your input as to whether or not you feel that we should go forward and renew this contract, or whether it's working for you and your children, or if you have any suggestions, maybe you want to see some changes. So please fill out the survey and get it right back so that we can look at it. And it may be just a matter of we want to talk to them about some of the things you'd like to see, or so we just need your input. So it's important to get that back so we can look at the decisions that we have to make.
Have you made these out already? Have you run these off already?
No.
So you can do two-sided?
We can do the two-sided. What you're looking at, there are three surveys here. The first one is a survey for the parents. And the reason it'll go home in a hard copy is because we're not quite sure who has computer access. Cafe Services already has pre-made surveys on on SurveyMonkey, but again, not knowing the computer access of all the families. So we'll send them home hard copy. The second survey is a staff survey that we'll hand out. And the third survey is the SurveyMonkey from Cafe Services, and this will be done in the health class by all the students, with a little extra help the younger grades to help them make sure they understand the questions. And this will go out hopefully on Tuesday, excuse me.
Jerry,
Yes, sir.
may I put this together for the staff on SurveyMonkey so we can collate it quicker?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, we can put together SurveyMonkey on it.
Yeah, just for staff.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
all.
Yeah, we know
More
staff
efficient.
has access.
Yep, absolutely. It'll be easier for us to collate also. The SurveyMonkey would
That's,
be,
I'll do
I
that.
guess we just need board approval for the survey before it goes out.
Okay, so when the students do their survey, they're gonna do that, does everybody have health class? Is this gonna
yes,
hit
everybody has health.
within what period of time?
2 weeks.
Okay.
A week, excuse me. No, it's fine.
Yeah, within
Right,
a week, yeah.
Okay.
Mrs. Richards did
Yeah.
said.
Every grade level?
Yeah. It's one of those specials, so they get it
We
weekly.
were concerned about the younger ones being able to do it, because the survey will be done in health class. And we're concerned about kindergarten, first graders doing it, but as Mrs. Richards pointed out, the classes, they have a teacher aide, and there's always a second person, and so they will be doing it with the students.
And even if we're, Nate or I are in there to help
Yeah,
out with it,
and-
it's
yeah,
not
and that's
really
what
take
Mr. Gregg
all
was
that
saying.
much time. You can see the survey, it's not an in-depth survey.
So if you could just please take the time and fill them out and get them back, so we could at least get your input and know where we go from here. So I'm just asking for your direction.
Anybody have any problem with the survey?
Looks good.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Did the bulk of the work on that?
No spelling mistakes, I'm being Liz tonight.
You're gonna point out my mistakes?
I
Thank
said
you.
there aren't any.
There aren't any.
There aren't
Yes,
any.
all right, Liz.
Not that I found, so. I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second it.
I didn't think I should second it since I wrote it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job.
Thank you.
Comments by the public? Jerry?
That fan is annoying.
Oh,
It's still on.
Yeah, it is. We've been listening to it for 2
Oh.
hours and 21 minutes and 41 seconds now. But
Should've
Should've
said
said something.
well, it's not a public meeting, so I didn't want to interrupt, but,
Oh.
Jim Miller and I did some work today with some of the department heads in the town side and discussing the warrant articles that they felt were important. What we did was, we sat down, did interviews with the department heads for Channel 3, and what I wanted to run by you was if you had any that you felt you wanted to promote that way on Channel 3, we could sit down with the person that you designated to explain that particular or those particular warrant articles to the public. It just draws a little more light to them, maybe make it a little bit more understanding for people, get a few more people involved in coming to the deliberative session. And I thought I would ask you at this meeting, in case you needed to get something consensus from the board for one person or another to, you know, pick these out if you wanted to, and kind of elaborate on them, and like I say, reach out to the public and inform them what, because sometimes they're a little confusing to read on the ballot, the way they get them worded. And what Jim did and I did, we tried to, just kind of break them down and we talked to Todd Nason, we talked to Pam Judge on one she was working on, Wayne Robinson, we talked to Arthur Capello, because he has some zoning amendments with the planning board they were working on, and Phil Twombly and Dave Tibbetts came in because they had some warrant articles going forth on the cemetery that they wanted to explain. But, the offer's out there, if it's something you wanted to take advantage of, we'd be able to probably work with you and do that.
I'd say it's up to you.
I said it's something we have to discuss.
The most logical one to me would be the creating a committee to look at separation, because I think a typical voter is going to look at that and not have any idea why it's happening, what it means, what the process would be. And it would seem most practical if you wanted to do that, to have me and a board member do it, since I've been through it a couple of times. And, we could have a board member and myself sort of discussing it. How does it come about? What does it look like? What's the process? That's the one that seems most likely to be confusing to voters, to me.
Well, we have you on the article, and Steve.
Yeah, you could certainly.
Unless you want. That's
Why
probably.
does that have to be done by Jared?
Well, your deliberative session is later in February than the town. The town is February 2nd, and yours is
The
following Friday.
Next week.
It was something that we were gonna do, we're helping to get the town one on over the next week or so, just to give people an idea of what to expect at the deliberative session. The two that I thought of, the one that Jay thought of is a good one, because that is confusing. The one that came to mind with us was the one on the Capital Reserve Fund for Security, to explain to people that basically the school is secure now, but just the way that society's changing, we need to keep up with that evolution. And the other one that we thought about was the purchase of the land on the
Right,
corner,
that's my first
because,
thought, yeah.
that would be a pretty big deal.
I think that would be the first one, yeah.
That would be a pretty big deal to get that piece of land. You're not gonna get too many opportunities to
Right.
open that end of the parking lot up like that.
Right.
I think that, a lot of us would hate to see that opportunity slip away, because, that I would say that's fairly important.
I think most parents know just with the parking issue and trying to pick up that alone.
I think that's gonna be huge, because they can't get in and get out the
Right.
same way.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people realize that, but I didn't know if that was something that you would, wanna explain to people, kind of, and I mean, it's not something you have to do, but I guess my thing was, if you need to get a consensus of the board before one person does it, you could get the consensus. If you decide not to do it, then that's fine, but, if you don't get the consensus of the board to do it, then we have to wait till the next meeting to
Yeah.
find out about it, and
I remember one time Jim Miller came in and kind of did an interview back and forth with the whole board at the board meeting, and just asked questions that way.
well, that's an option. I mean, this, we were putting this together. These are kind of short clips. Some of them ran 5 to 7 minutes. I haven't actually put them all together. The way we laid it out was, we have the warrant article printed out, we put that on the screen while Jim reads it, and then he spoke to the person. Well, basically, why is it, or how did this warrant article come about? And a yes vote will mean this, and so people should consider this or that. And, like I say, it was just narrowed it down to a couple of, I think the longest one maybe was with the fire department, it was maybe 15 minutes long, but I haven't boiled it down, but, you know, I'd say it was just an option to,
Okay, so the land, the security, and the SAU. Although he could talk about any of them.
Right.
Those are the three that we have.
Right. Those would probably be the most confusing.
Does the board wish to do that?
Absolutely. I think the more information we get out to the public,
I like the idea, I don't know how.
I like explaining.
I don't know how I want to go about doing it, but I like the idea of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's a forum for us to complete our cases for these warrant articles, like Jerry said, you're reading them in a booth, and a lot of times they don't make
Yeah.
a lot of sense to you, or you don't know the reasoning behind it, you know?
Well, that's just like explaining
Well,
to
they're gonna
parents
go
what
to
we're
the
talking
deliberative session and get that, and that's gonna be on TV as well.
Well, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to watch TV that aren't going to be at the deliberative session, though.
Right.
about, to ask the question.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They
Oh.
don't vote until March.
Right.
So the deliberative session is basically the same thing. It's an explanation of,
Yeah.
and that'll be on TV as
Mhm.
well. But we could do it as a whole board. We could.
Yeah, I'm comfortable doing it as a whole board. Would you consider that, doing
oh,
it
sure,
as
I
a
mean,
board?
anything you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just the way we did it with some of the department heads in town, and, you know, it seemed to work out well. I just wanted to give you the option to use that if it was something you wanted to do, and, I just didn't want to bring it up at a meeting in case it was something that you had to get a consensus.
We could
to do,
actually
so.
go right down through our warrant
Yeah.
and take, you know, the ones we just assigned to people,
Mhm.
we could.
And
Talk
discuss
about
it then.
It would be
discuss
like a
it.
dry run for us, a rehearsal.
Yeah.
I like the idea, yeah.
Well, the more information we
But I
can get
like
out
the
to
idea
the
of a
public, the
board, the
better.
whole board, because that's kind of the way we roll.
That's right.
Great, thanks.
The chair will be in touch.
All righty.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jared.
Before we go into non-public session, we do have one other issue I had asked to be added to the agenda earlier tonight. After the public hearing of our school budget with the budget committee, the school board went back into session, and I received an official complaint regarding a board member, and I asked that complaint be put in writing and that it would be added to the agenda for tonight. Pricilla made the complaint, so I'm going to let her read a statement and ask that we deal with this in a professional, adult manner and allow one person to finish speaking before somebody else starts. Pricilla, if you want to go ahead.
I'm officially making a request to the board for censure against fellow board member Steve Brown. I believe Steve Brown has violated our ethics policy, his oath of office, and our long-standing accepted practice of the board standing as one. Steve Brown went rogue, expressing his personal opinion while sitting as a board member in a recorded public forum, while ignoring the school board vote to reaffirm policy J blank 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 at our last meeting. Discussing students that we are charged to protect while not naming them, but easy to figure out who they are in such a small community, is not acceptable behavior and cannot be tolerated. Steve Brown, who made the motion to recess our meeting, so was fully aware we were to resume our meeting after the public hearing, chose to walk out without informing the chair. I ask that the board join me in a vote of censure against Steve Brown. I hereby make a motion to publicly censor Steve Brown for his conduct at the school board hearing held on January 11th, 2013.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And who, discussion, and who's
For
this from?
discussion.
Me.
That's from you. So, you're gonna try to deny me my rights? Then I guess I'm going to need to request legal representation. Because you don't have the authority, once again, to deny me my rights. And if you want to go down that route, then go down that route, but do you really think you're going to be able to afford to deny me my rights? I don't think you're going to be able to afford it. Because this will be far from the end of it. I can promise you that. You might want to think about bumping up your legal line. Because if you attack my rights, this is far from over. Believe me. I was not at that meeting, as you stated in your little letter there. I wasn't even there. I haven't even conveniently, I didn't get my package. So I don't even have the minutes. Another convenient, kind of difficult to try to go over your thing from your phone. Because once again, did you get your package? You, Judy?
I never got mine till Tuesday afternoon.
I got
But you did get yours.
Tuesday afternoon, yeah.
Did you get yours, Pricilla?
I did.
How come it's only me? And this isn't the first time. Okay? And I take offense to that. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to request legal representation because you are attacking my fundamental rights. I'm telling you right now, this is far from over. I am requesting legal representation. Jay, what was the name of that firm that you changed to from Sol Leslie and Kidder and...
I think that if this is going to become a legal issue, it's something that needs to be dealt with in non-public session.
Well, I'm asking for the name of the law firm.
The other firm with which I have done the most work is called Drummond Woodson. They're out of Portsmouth.
Drummond?
Drummond Woodson. I can give you contact information.
Is there any further business in public?
You got a motion in a
Yeah,
second?
is there a way that maybe Steve Brown could get his package? Like the rest of the board does?
Would have to talk to Kathy about that. What about your postmaster? Have you talked to them to see if they're holding it?
Yeah, I talk to him every day.
They're not
And,
putting us-
and notified them that I'm expecting something. Haven't gotten it. And I was told it was mailed last Friday.
Yeah, I usually get mine on Saturday, and I checked the date on mine. It was mailed on Friday, and I never got mine till Tuesday.
But this isn't the first time. So it's difficult to prepare for a meeting when you don't even get the information. And it's just another matter of convenience. And now, I wasn't even at this meeting. I don't even have, and you, go ahead.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead,
You were
Priscilla,
at
I'll
the
tell
public
you.
hearing.
What?
You were at the public hearing.
No, I was not at the me and Jay, if you recall, left the meeting early to go to the concerned residents meeting. So I was not at that meeting, as you and Pricilla have stated that I was there when this policy got reaffirmed. No, I was not there, and I don't even have the information from that meeting.
You were there at the first reading, and then it was reaffirmed at the second meeting, which you weren't at. So you should have I know you were at the first meeting because there was
But
discussion
it wasn't
at the first
reaffirmed to
meeting.
the second meeting, where I wasn't even there.
Well, that's not my fault that you chose to
You
go to
chose
the
to
Crow
leave.
meeting.
Because on a school issue.
We still.
So wait a minute, no,
we
let's
still
not-
continue
no, wait a
our
minute, Judy.
business. No,
Don't-
we
no.
still have to continue our business. We're not gonna cancel a meeting because one person's not there.
Okay,
We didn't
well-
cancel the meeting tonight because Liz isn't here. We continue
No,
the
but
business.
you gotta make factual statements. And you can't say that I was at a meeting when a policy was reaffirmed when I wasn't.
I don't know if I said that, but you were at the first meeting.
Pricilla just stated in her little,
No, I
You
didn't.
said that.
yeah, you did. It specifically states about the meeting that the policy was reaffirmed.
Do you have your-
Yeah, sure. Because remember, he talked about a couple other policies before he left that he wanted us to address.
Mm-hmm.
So he
But what
obviously-
was it voted on, Priscilla? No, it was not. So get your facts straight.
Was what voted on?
None of those policies were voted on when I was at that meeting,
No, they were voted on the second meeting,
which is the meeting I'm talking about.
that you weren't there.
Precisely.
But they were still voted on.
Okay, and I
So
don't have that information yet, do I? But everyone else does. How convenient.
Was that in the minutes from this packet?
Yeah. I don't know, I haven't got the packet.
It should have been in the January 7th meeting, and that's the one where before you left.
That's the meeting.
Yeah, that's the one I took the minutes.
Right, and that's the meeting that would be in this packet.
Right, but that's,
And I didn't get the packet.
okay. On that meeting, before you left, the one thing you did say, you wanted me to make, we were reviewing the other minutes. You wanted me to make sure that I removed that deemed not appropriate, right?
Yep.
Okay, and I
That was in the
changed
meeting
that.
before January 7th.
Okay, right, the one from December 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Before you left, you said that there were 3 points you needed to make. I took minutes at that meeting.
Yeah.
You were at that meeting, and it says, and actually, should just give you the copy.
And what's your point?
What
there?
my,
I wasn't there when the
okay,
vote was taken.
could you just please calm down? I'm trying
No,
to
no,
just
don't
address.
please, don't
I'm just
tell me
addressing-
what. Don't go
Okay.
there with me.
Okay,
So,
let's just
when-
try to have a,
When you were at the
discussion.
meeting, you, the first thing that was addressed, and Mrs. Nason addressed an email regarding the scheduled Crow meeting. The board agreed to have Superintendent McIntyre attend the Crow meeting, representing the board. Mr. Brown planned on attending the meeting as a Wakefield citizen, not a board member. You stated that, wanted to make sure I wrote it, and I did.
Yeah.
Both Mr. Brown and Mr. McIntyre left the school board meeting at 6:45 PM. Mr. Brown, before he left, addressed the concern regarding the gym door. You said there were things you needed to make sure that we knew about before you left.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm telling you what I wrote down because the agenda was there as to what we were going to be addressing. So during that time, Mr. Brown addressed the concern regarding the gym door and advised it had been taken care of. You took care of it. You also updated us on the sewer lines and stated that there were none located in the area of concern. And you said, before I leave, I want to make sure that you remove "to be inappropriate" in the minutes of December 19th, and that's not what I
Can you get to the point
said.
of when the
well,
policy
let's
was
not
voted
interrupt.
on?
Let's
No,
not,
I'm not really-
Steve, no, hold it. We're
No,
not
no,
gonna
no, hold
have
it.
screaming
No,
match.
we'll hold it. I'm not.
Don't
the
interrupt.
point
Let her
is I
finish.
was not there for the vote for the policy.
Okay, let her finish
What
whatever
does
the
this have
point
to
is.
do with
I'm
that?
not sure, I'm
Nothing.
trying to find out.
What it has to do with is that we had an agenda of what we would be reviewing at that meeting. You addressed 3 things of your concern you wanted addressed before you left.
Okay.
One was that policy to be reaffirmed, and that you did
How
not
many times
voice the
have we
concern.
pulled policies that have been on the agenda and were pulled the policies and they were not voted on?
Right.
So what's your point?
The point is that you.
Just because it's on the agenda doesn't mean it was voted on. And if you're not there, you don't know if it's voted on.
But it's, the point is that I also sent these minutes out to all board members via email. So you should
Do
have.
you
this-
have my package?
Can you move the
I'm
motion?
not,
Move the motion.
Do you have my package?
okay, Steve, I don't do the packet, but I did send you the minutes via email, as I did
Yeah,
all
yeah,
board
my
members.
package.
So you should have had the minutes.
Do you have my package?
All right, this is not getting us
Never mind.
anywhere, obviously. I'm not quite sure how I wanna.
We have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second, you're correct.
And who was the second?
I second for discussion.
Okay, I'll call, I need the motion again.
The motion
Deb,
is,
could you repeat what you have written down for a motion?
A motion of censure of Steve Brown for statements made during the public hearing on January 11, 2013.
Okay. I guess I have some discussion because I haven't said anything yet. I guess I need to know, because this is not something that we've ever done before, what rises to the level of a censure? What, I'm not asking you, Steve. I'm thinking out loud here, and I'm gonna finish saying what I want to say. What, is it the fact that you're citing he broke one of the school board member ethics and the oath of office? So I guess my question is, if any time a board member breaks any of these school board member ethics, does that mean we're going to censor them? Is that the definition of a censor? I need to know what the definition of that is. When do you do that, and why do you do that? And at what level of item do you have to do to be censored? Because I can sit here and tell you that I could probably censor all of us if we were doing it by the school board member ethics.
Yeah.
I just need to know what rises to the occasion of a...
Would you like a definition?
Mm.
This is only one, but it happens to be Wikipedia. A censure is an expression of strong disapproval or harsh criticism. Among the forms that it can take are a stern rebuke by a legislature, a spiritual penalty imposed by a church, and a negative judgment pronounced on a theological proposition. In politics, a censure is an alternative to more serious measures against misconduct or dereliction of duty.
Misconduct.
Point of order.
Can I read for you, Judy?
Yeah,
Point
wait a
of
minute,
order.
wait a minute.
From the American School Board. School Board censure. School board members around the nation are admired for their outspoken ways and no-holds-barred defense of sincere beliefs, but sometimes verbal sparring goes too far and triggers a backdraft. The collective disapproval of peers, in this case fellow board members, can be communicated via censure, a reprimand, removal from board post, or another authorized rebuke. The offending official usually responds in one of two ways: accepting the issue or administrative proceedings. School boards have a legal or policy right, and sometimes both, to police their own, but members have options on how to go about it. The scolding can happen informally, such as when the board president or trusted ally takes the person aside for a conversation. Another discreet alternative: several board members perform a private intervention. When admonishment happens formally, however, it usually means that behavior was so egregious or well publicized that board colleagues feel that public response is warranted. Formal actions are rare and titillating, and they inevitably spark citizen and media interest. Public shaming can also generate a lawsuit.
I'll clarify and say it to
Point of order, well, you already
Yes,
stated
go
it,
ahead.
so.
Go ahead, Steve, now.
Point of order. How can, a school board member censure a member of the public?
I don't see how they could.
Then what's then what are we even discussing here? Because what we're discussing here is a school board member trying to censor a member of the public. Because a member of the public asked a question.
Well, Steve,
But wait a minute, we are not school board members at a budget committee meeting. We're not. We are not school board members. We are members of the public. I asked a question as a member of the public.
But you
And now-
answered questions as a member of the school board.
Pardon me?
You answered questions as a member of the school board.
I never stated I was answering a question as representing the school board, because we're not. We're a budget committee meeting, we are members of the public. I didn't raise my hand and say, I want to answer a question to represent the school board, and then answer the question. I did not do
I think
that.
I called on you to answer it.
To
As
explain. You did.
What, pardon me?
I think I called on you to explain something.
The boilers and the sewer lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't state I was doing this as a board member. What, I can't, so,
I'm assuming that the school board was there as school board members at the school board public
No, you're not.
hearing.
I assume the same thing.
It's
No,
the
you-
budget committee's
well,
meeting to
assume.
run.
Herein lies the problem, when you assume. You're not a school board member because you're not a school board member.
You're acting as a school board member, you're answering as a school board member, you're a school board member.
No, you're not a school, you're a member of the public.
Can't wear two hats.
Legal, pardon me? Pardon me? You want to repeat that?
No, I don't.
I didn't think so, I'll get it off the camera.
Okay.
This is my thought on it.
Well,
I have always, in as many years as I've been involved, tried very hard to work with any board member that has come on board with me or has been elected to a board with me. And I have tried to show respect to all board members I have dealt with, either as a budget committee member or a school board member. I find it kind of sad that we're at a point where we feel that we need to censor school board members. I think it's sad that we can't work together and try to do what is best for the kids and the school district of Wakefield, and that we end up spending more time on this board complaining about other board members, arguing about other board members, discussing what someone should or shouldn't have done. And I think that maybe we need to get back to the business of the school board.
Well said.
But I think we also need to work together. And Steve, you did kind of take me back even the other night when you made your comments, because we had voted on that as a board. And it's always kind of been a board, the school board has always tried to stick together. And when a board makes a decision, that's the decision that we go out with, in public with. It's what we do, it's just kind of always, it's kind of like a code almost, like you represent the board. Once the board has made a decision, I'll give you a perfect example of it. The board voted on a warrant article to fund special education. I voted no. The vote was 4-1 as far as the board went. When I went to the budget committee as the budget committee representative, I voted for that because that's the way the board voted, and I'm representing the board. So it did kind of take me back, and I'll tell you, you ticked me off too when you went out and you're talking about something that we just voted on.
That I wasn't aware of.
Okay.
I
You
wasn't
weren't
aware
aware of it?
I wasn't there.
Okay, but you knew it was something that we had discussed, and it really wasn't the right place. I don't think it was the right place to bring it up at a public hearing. I wish that instead that you had said, I'm unhappy with the decision that the board made about the policy. I've come up with some more information that I think the board should be made aware of, and could we readdress that policy? And someone that voted on the prevailing side of that could have said, Steve, if you have more information, yes, I'll make a motion to address it. I just wish that we could have dealt with it that way, instead of ending up at this point. And unfortunately, when people turn the TV on, and this is what they see happening at board meetings, and it's happened all year long, and we're all guilty, we've all had parts of it. That's why people don't want to run for these positions. Who wants to come here every Wednesday night and fight? Who wants to have to worry about what your fellow board members trying to dig up on you to bring to a meeting to throw in your face? You know something? Nobody wants to do that. I'm not going to run again, because I'm not going to do it. I get on a board to come in here and do what's right for the kids of Wakefield and try to make this a better place for them to come to school at. Not for all this bickering. And really, I'll be glad when March comes. Now, there's a motion on the floor, and there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I'm gonna abstain.
Can I have a motion to go into non-public session?
So moved. Under.
Is there a second?
Second. Brown eye.
Nason, aye.
Pacito, aye.
Colbath, aye.
We're in non-public session.